Chapter 429. Chinyu's eyes lit up with excitement. He flipped his hand, and 10 jade bottles appeared. Each jade bottle was the same size, and mysterious runes flowed on their surface. These were specially refined items used to seal the monster beast's soul and blood within the bottles. Looking down, one could see the dark red monster beast blood essence within the bottles, as well as the monster beast soul floating above the blood essence. This blood was refined from the body of a monster beast, the essence of its flesh and blood. This soul was a complete monster beast soul without any damage at all. To refine a complete monster beast soul and blood was astonishingly difficult and also required an incredible amount of luck. It was because of this that the price was so high. In order to gather these 10 portions of soul and blood, Chinyu had gone to great lengths, and Tuba had experienced countless life or death trials. It had to be known that everyone kept a close eye on good things. If you obtained it, there would surely be others who coveted it. However, all of this was worth it in the end. As long as the purple-back blue-wing ants completed the first level of cultivation, they would possess a formidable strength. Chinyu revealed a solemn expression. He lifted a hand, and the 10 jade bottles flew up at the same time. He formed a law formula, and the runes on the jade bottles began to tremble. Cracks began to appear on the surface of the jade bottles. Pa! Pa! The 10 jade bottles shattered at the same time. The soul and blood within were no longer suppressed. The monster beast souls immediately revealed looks of ecstasy. They reared their heads back and roared, flashing into the blood essence. In the next moment, 10 balls of blood essence exploded at the same time, expanding into 10 monster beast phantoms, each one emitting a powerful aura. Even though this was only the first stage of cultivation, the souls and blood that had the qualifications to be used were at least at the blue sea level, equal to a monster king. Although they only had the initial strength of a monster king, when 10 of them were placed together, it was still astonishing. The purple-back blue-wing ants emitted threatening, buzzing sounds. Their eyes revealed a look of longing. After swallowing the cultivation pills, they instinctively knew that the monster beast phantoms in front of them were the key to their advancement. Chinyu calmed them down with his divine sense. He took out the soul summoning bell and gently shook it. The 10 monster beast phantoms revealed looks of fear. They turned to flee, but at this time, an icy cold will descended upon them. Chinyu's eyes brightened. He shook the bell even faster. Although he didn't make any sound, the monster beast phantoms became even more anxious. Suddenly, ripples appeared in the void. It was as if a pair of invisible hands came from the other side, grabbing the 2 sides and slowly pulling them apart. Therefore, through the hole that appeared, they could clearly see that on the other side was a boundless grassland. Amidst the green grass, there was a gray hare standing on the ground. Its short and thick legs were crossed in front of its chest as it arrogantly walked through the spatial passage. Its eyes were incomparably deep, like an unfathomable abyss, and it emitted the vicissitudes of time that had practically condensed into substance. Its gaze swept past the 10 fearsome demon beast phantoms, and their bodies suddenly stiffened as if they had been immobilized, and they were actually unable to move in the slightest. It didn't linger for too long. Its eyes swept around and fell onto Chinyu. It was hard to describe what Chinyu was feeling at this moment. He never imagined that the ancestral monster that was born between the heavens and earth and possessed the power to destroy the heavens and earth would actually form a connection with a hare. What he was even more unable to accept was that he actually felt terror from the bottom of his heart under this rabbit's indifferent gaze. He didn't dare arouse the slightest intention to resist, and he even had a terrifying feeling as if he'd been seen through and had no secrets left. After a moment of hesitation, Chinyu cupped his hands together and bowed. Junior greets, Lord Ancestral Monster. The hare's funny 3-petal lips curled up, revealing a taunting expression. Judging a book by its cover, your temperament is still stuck at this stage. You really disappoint me. Its eyes flashed, and it continued to say, moreover, I'm really curious. You haven't even recognized a master for the soul summoning bell, and yet you dare to summon a part of my soul. Do you want to die? Qin Yu's heart skipped a beat, and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. But before he could ask anything, the hare closed its eyes and lightly said, "Since I have awakened, the process cannot be stopped. Let's see your good fortune." The 10 monster beast phantoms all cried out in pain. Their condensed bodies shattered, turning into countless tiny fragments that were sucked into the hare's body. The hare's fur immediately turned blood red. An inexplicable aura began to release from it. As the purple-back blue-wing ants smelled this aura, they instantly fell into a frenzy. They crazily flapped their wings. A connection was instantly formed between their auras and the hare's. Blood threads appeared from the hare's body and submerged into the purple-back blue-wing ants. An overbearing, tyrannical, cruel, and icy cold will. In the blink of an eye, the purple-back blue-wing ant's fragile consciousness collapsed. Qin Yu stuffily coughed, and blood gushed out from his head. This was the will of the ancestral monster's remnant soul. Through the purple-back blue-wing ants, it descended a terrifying suppression. In that moment, Qin Yu was enlightened. If he couldn't resist the crushing will of the ancestral monster's remnant soul, then not only would his cultivation fail, but he would also be buried along with it. Damn it! Why didn't the monster-raising mystic art mention anything about the soul-summoning bell recognizing a master? Qin Yu only had time to roar out loud in his heart. Then, he couldn't divert any more of his attention. He could only mobilize all of his strength to resist the crushing will of the ancestral monster's remnant soul. The ancestral monster was the ancestor of all monsters born before the heavens and earth. Even a tiny fragment of its soul possessed unimaginable might. Beneath the crushing will of the ancestral monster, Qin Yu felt as if he had fallen into the turbulent undercurrents of the deep sea. If he wasn't careful, he would be crushed to pieces. Within Qin Yu's soul space, the phantom of a wild rabbit appeared. It looked at the purple crescent moon that hung above Qin Yu's soul, its eyes flashing with interest. This junior actually controls the lunar star art. No wonder I felt something was wrong with his aura. The wild rabbit grinned. But just by relying on the lunar star art that isn't even at the basic level, he still can't resist the test of my will. What a pity for this junior. As if to confirm its words, just as its voice fell, several cracks appeared on the surface of Qin Yu's soul. Because of the pain, his entire soul violently trembled. The wild rabbit curled its lips. After sleeping for endless years, I thought I would be able to play with you for a bit longer after being awakened. I never thought it would be such a weak little fellow. It turned to leave. But at this time, the wild rabbit's complexion changed. It turned to look at the skies above Qin Yu's soul. Beside the purple crescent moon, the phantom of a blue sun had appeared. Purple moon and blue sun, their light intertwined and fused together, turning into a strange milky white. Beneath this light, the cracks on the surface of Qin Yu's soul began to regenerate at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the aura of his soul became much stronger. Sun Palace secret art. The wild rabbit's eyes widened and it instantly vanished. Then, it appeared in Qin Yu's Dantian Sea. Looking at the faintly formed blue sun in the skies above Five-Element Mountain within his Dantian Sea, it was silent for a long time. Then, it sighed with emotion. It looks like I've slept for far too long this time. Great Yin and Great Yang. These two super influences have actually experienced some changes. Otherwise, how could their inheritance techniques appear in the same person's body at the same time? This boy is quite lucky, but he doesn't seem to know the function of the Sun and Moon Palace's secret arts. He's only using their most basic functions. The wild rabbit thought for a moment and then sneered. His success this time can only be considered good luck. It can't be acknowledged at all. I naturally don't have any obligation to remind him. Moreover, cultivation always has to rely on one's own exploration, right? After an unknown period of time, Qin Yu's eyelids trembled and he struggled to open them. His eyes were dim and his expression was one of extreme weariness. The ancestral monster's remnant soul had already vanished. As he looked at the slumbering purple-back blue-wing ants, Qin Yu's lips pulled up in an ugly smile. He had finally made it through. Several times just now, he thought he had reached his limit. Luckily, his will didn't collapse in the end. With a flick of his sleeves, he received the purple-back blue-wing ants into the Imperial Spirit bag. Then, he took out several black and red pills and swallowed them down, refining them with all his strength to restore himself. These pills were pills of the demonic path. They were refined from the flesh and blood of living beings and their essence. Although their medicinal efficacy was tyrannical, their effects were much better than those of spirit plant pills. 2 hours later, Qin Yu opened his eyes. There was still a bit of lingering fear in them. He had originally thought he had a 90% success rate, but he had nearly failed. The soul summoning bell recognized as a master. As he thought about what the monster race's remnant soul had said, Qin Yu's complexion darkened. This was clearly the most crucial step of the monster-raising mystic art, but he simply didn't know about it. Could it be that the monster-raising mystic art he obtained was also fake? But that couldn't be right. If it was fake, then how could he summon the ancestral monster's remnant soul? The greatest possibility was that the monster-raising mystic art in his hands wasn't complete, and there was a critical part missing. As Qin Yu thought of this, his mood worsened. At this time, there was a fluctuation in the Imperial Spirit bag. The slumbering purple-back blue-wing ants had awakened. With a thought, the purple-back blue-wing ants flew out. Their appearance had greatly changed. Their wings had turned gray and white, and a gray shell had appeared over their fragile bodies. Their auras had clearly risen by several levels. But what caused Qin Yu's heart to sink was that beneath the crushing will of the ancestral monster, the purple-back blue-wing ant's consciousness seemed to have been erased. Now, they only obeyed his will. After losing their initiative, the purple-back blue-wing ant's abilities were greatly reduced. Qin Yu's complexion was cloudy and uncertain. He never imagined that after spending so much effort to complete the first step, he would obtain such a result. Suddenly, Qin Yu's complexion changed. He discovered that the purple-back blue-wing ants had formed a mysterious connection with some existence. Moreover, from this connection, it seemed as if the purple-back blue-wing ants were the supreme being. After a moment of hesitation, Qin Yu followed this connection and carefully probed it with his divine sense. Then, he felt a cruel soul filled with a destructive aura. This soul didn't seem to discover the arrival of Qin Yu's divine sense. At this time, it was in a deep slumber. As Qin Yu was surprised, information suddenly spread out from his cruel soul. Qin Yu was startled, but soon, he revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. After several breaths of time, Qin Yu opened his eyes, his face full of admiration. What a good giant monster sect. They actually divided the monster-raising mystic art into two. If it's the real one, then the fake one also hides the most crucial part of the real one. Chapter 430. It was only today that Qin Yu could be considered to have truly grasped the monster-raising mystic art. As for the soul-summoning bell, it wasn't only used to summon the remnant soul of the ancestral monster. As a supreme treasure of the soul-summoning bell could counterbalance the overwhelming will of the ancestral monster's remnant soul. Otherwise, as one continued to cultivate it, the ancestral monster's remnant soul would become stronger and stronger. At that point, no one would be able to withstand its will. Furthermore, the most important thing was that the soul-summoning bell could disperse the undying will of the ancestral monster's remnant soul, allowing it to be truly absorbed. Otherwise, even if he managed to swallow it, the ancestral monster's remnant soul would condense once more, and the result would be that all of the purple-back blue-wing ants in his hands would die. Qin Yu's complexion was dignified. He was originally rejoicing that his soul cultivation wasn't weak, and in addition to his firm will, he was able to withstand the crushing will of the ancestral monster. But he never imagined that this matter would lead to hidden dangers. The soul-summoning bell's recognition process could not be delayed, and it had to be completed before the ancestral demons were condensed once more. He closed his eyes and carefully read through the information regarding the soul summoning bell's recognition process. After a long time, he opened his eyes, a thoughtful look on his face. For the soul summoning bell to recognize a master was not a simple matter. The degree of difficulty far surpassed Qin Yu's expectations. In order to refine this treasure, one needed to build a soul-guiding altar with 36 different soul treasures. Then, by relying on this altar, one could summon a soul from another world. This kind of soul had no consciousness of its own, but it had the innate ability to fuse with all treasures. By inserting a wisp of one's divine sense into it, and then using the soul of nothingness to fuse with it, the soul-summoning bell could recognize a master. Moreover, summoning the soul of nothingness from a different world had an extremely high requirement on the summoner's soul cultivation. Just gathering the 36 soul treasures needed to construct the soul-leading altar was extremely difficult. For instance, ebony wood. Only in a land of extreme and a massive number of departed souls would there be a small chance of it being born. In the eyes of soul cultivators, it was a supreme treasure. It could attract a massive number of departed souls, and every piece was priceless. For instance, the bitter mulberry flower. This was a supreme treasure that was born with the ability to condense the soul. It had an unimaginable ability to restore soul injuries. It was rumored that a 10,000-year-old bitter mulberry flower could even remold the soul. There was also the soul storage stone, soul origin water, ancient frost soul, etc. These things all had two things in common. One was that they were rare, and the other was that they were expensive. Although Qin Yu still had over 600 million spirit stones on hand. If he took them all out, he might be able to use them. But the key point was that there were some treasures that you couldn't buy even if you wanted to. Qin Yu took a deep breath and carefully sensed the purple-back blue-wing ants. Indeed, he could feel the existence of the ancestral monster's will from them. Although it was extremely weak, it was still recovering. If nothing went wrong, it would take at most 4 months for it to recover. Unless he gave up on the purple-back blue-wing ants and chose another monster beast to raise, he would only have a short 4 months to resolve the matter of the soul-summoning bell recognizing him as its master. Without further consideration, Qin Yu vetoed the option of abandoning the purple-back blue-wing ants. Disregarding how troublesome it would be to choose a new monster beast, just the early stages of training would require a massive investment. Not including the cultivation pills, the 10 types of high-level monster beast souls and blood were worth 300 million spirit stones. If it weren't for the Black Demon sect making such a great profit, then even if he obtained the monster-raising mystic art, he wouldn't have been able to play around. In that case, he could only try his best to make the soul-summoning bell recognize him as its master within 4 months. Qin Yu's eyes flashed. The Black Demon sect also knew that the materials needed for the soul-summoning bell to recognize a master could only be collected elsewhere. After thinking for a moment, Qin Yu made his decision. He went into seclusion for another 10 days, doing nothing but refining pills and then purifying them with the little blue lamp. 10 days later, he handed over a massive number of pills to Tuba and Tutu. Qin Yu ordered them to continue purchasing spirit plant materials and announced that he was going into seclusion. The next day, Qin Yu changed his appearance. He borrowed the identity of one of Grandmaster Zhang's disciples and left the Black Demon sect. Of course, this real disciple had already fallen into a deep slumber after taking the pills. At the very least, it was impossible for him to wake up before Qin Yu returned. Zhao Empire, Four Seasons City. The city was named after this city. The rumors said that in the distant past, there was a sect called the Four Seasons sect. The Four Seasons sect was originally an ordinary sect, but it had once given birth to a peerless, proud son of heaven. This person overcame all obstacles in his path and finally became an almighty being that suppressed an entire era. Although everything had been erased by time, and the peerless powerhouse that illuminated the entire era had long since vanished without a trace, perhaps out of basic respect for powerhouses, the name of Four Seasons City was preserved. Even though it was located in the southern part of the Zhao Empire, the climate was still cold. Snowflakes fluttered down from the dark skies, and a thick layer of snow had piled up on the ground, nearly submerging one's calves. As the wind and snow intertwined, a black-robed figure walked in from outside the towering Four-Seasons city. As he walked through the snow, he didn't leave behind a single footprint. Compared to those beams of light that flew up and down from the skies, he seemed low-key and unremarkable. In such cold weather, even if a cultivator didn't fear the cold or the heat, no one was willing to stay outside for long. Whoosh, whoosh, another beam of light howled in from the distance. This group of travel-worn cultivators was led by a white-eyebrowed old man. His expression was dignified and there was worry in his eyes. He emitted a faint aura, like a dragon swimming in the deep sea. He was impressively a blue sea rail powerhouse. How is the mist doing? He turned and glanced at the speed car in the middle of the crowd. A tired maid carefully replied. Her voice was buried in the wind and snow, but looking at the increasingly gloomy complexion of the white-eyebrowed old man, it was clear the result wasn't good. Let's go. The group didn't stop. They howled into Four-Seasons City. As for the figure that was slowly walking through the city gates, they didn't even spare half a glance at him. The Qin and Zhao empires were bitterly cold lands. Every year, there would only be a short period of time where the earth would recover. If it weren't for cultivators having their own methods to change the climate on a small scale, it would have been nearly impossible to survive here. It was because of this that the Qin and Zhao empires had fierce customs. Their cultivators acted in an overbearing and direct manner. It wasn't that they didn't have city defenses, but they were very lax. Of course, if anyone dared to cause trouble in the forbidden areas, they would soon taste the taste of the Zhao Empire's standard long spears. It seemed that it was rare to see someone obediently enter the city through the gates. Several soldiers guarding the gates had strange looks in their eyes. One of them teased, "You don't even dare to fly. Just how low is your cultivation? Boy, I advise you to hurry back home and cultivate for a few more years. If you come out too early, it's easy to lose your life." In the villages of the Qin and Zhao empires, there were many young cultivators like this. Most of them held onto the dream of becoming a powerhouse and left their hometowns to wander the outside world. But what awaited them wasn't a good ending. But it was because of this that they continued to pour out in batches and batches that the Zhao Empire was constantly replenished with new blood, allowing this powerful empire to remain strong. So although this soldier was teasing, he had good intentions. "All right, speak less and stand guard obediently," the captain berated. The guard were a bit puzzled, but they all revealed resentful expressions and didn't say anything else. The black-robed figure didn't stop. He soon vanished into the wind and snow. The captain watched him leave. He furrowed his eyebrows and revealed a thoughtful expression. A subordinate said, "Captain, is there a problem with that person?" The captain shook his head. "I just feel that this person isn't normal. I can't say why, but he gives me a very terrifying feeling." The complexions of several subordinates changed. The captain was an old man who had retired from the front lines. He had survived hundreds of battles, and his senses were incomparably accurate. If he could make the captain feel fear, then that black-robed person could likely crush all of them with a single hand. Humph! Let this be a reminder. Don't underestimate anyone. With our strength, we aren't even worth a fart in the eyes of a true master. The captain coldly snorted. Several subordinates hurriedly nodded, helplessly complaining in their hearts. They thought that a master like him had nothing better to do than keep a low profile. After entering Four-Seasons City, the black-robed person casually chose an inn to stay in. He rented a small courtyard and sent the servant away. Then he took out a token and opened the spell. As he stepped into the small courtyard, it was as warm as spring. Flowers and plants flourished in the courtyard, and lotus flowers bloomed in a pool. The black robe was pulled down to reveal a young face. Although he wasn't too handsome, he was still pleasing to the eye. This young man was Chinyu. After he left the Black Demon sect, he spent several days hurrying on his way. He borrowed the strength of a transmission array to leave the range of influence of the Black Demon sect. The reason he chose Four Seasons City was because there were several famous auction houses here. If he wanted to find 36 different soul treasures, he naturally couldn't rely on his own strength. After resting and restoring his spirit and energy, Chinyu pushed open the door and left the small courtyard. Not too far away, he saw a group of cultivators hurrying towards him from the snowy skies. Chinyu moved to the side of the road. His eyes flashed. This group of cultivators was the group of people he met at the city gates not too long ago. Compared to before, the atmosphere of the group was even more somber. The white-browed old man's complexion was even gloomier than the sky. This caused the servant leading the way to pale with fright. He trembled in fear, afraid to make the least bit of sound. Both sides passed each other. Chinyu only glanced at them several times before turning and leaving. He wasn't in the mood to inquire about other people's matters. The pressure of searching for 36 different soul treasures had already left him gasping for breath. An hour later, Chinyu appeared in an extremely grand and magnificent auction house. On both sides of the entrance were 16 tall and burly men. They wore strange black trousers and shirts, and giant black glasses that were clipped to the bridge of their noses. All of them exuded a fierce aura. This should be a genuine barbarian. The power of blood and chi in his body was indeed very strong. Of course, compared to the titans like Tuba and Tudu, there was still a considerable disparity. In particular, after making a breakthrough, Tuba could likely overturn these 16 strong barbarians with a single hand. Of course, to order these 16 strong barbarians to guard the entrance, that was more than enough momentum. Moreover, those big fellows gave off a sense of deterrence as well as a sense of security. Chinyu stepped up the steps. The black jadestone platform was incomparably clean. Beneath the shining lights, it added a bit of grandeur to it. "Welcome, guest. May I ask what esteemed guest requires?" 2 hours later, Chinyu revealed a helpless expression. He stood at the entrance of the auction house. He hadn't found a single one of the 36 materials he needed. This caused a shadow to cover his heart. Chapter 431. The speed car stopped at the entrance of the auction house. Several young cultivators and maids stood guard beside the car. The white-browed old man spoke a few words and then led his people through the entrance. Four Seasons City was extremely large. To be able to meet them 3 times in a single day, this could only be explained by fate. Chinyu's eyes flashed. He was a bit curious about these people. However, curiosity was just curiosity. Chinyu wasn't in the mood to care about anything else today. Just as he was about to leave, a cultivator chased after him from the main entrance. "Fellow Taoist Ning, please wait a moment." This person was a steward of the auction house. Chinyu had already used his spirit stone card to prove his purchasing power. So even though he spent a great deal of time and didn't purchase anything in the end, the steward still had a bright smile on his face. Chinyu stopped. "Stewardly, is there something you need?" Stewardly handed over an invitation with both hands. "Fellow Taoist Ning, my auction house will be holding a large-scale auction half a year from now. At that time, there might be items that fellow Taoist needs. If fellow Taoist Ning has time, please do come." Chinyu bitterly smiled. Half a year. He simply couldn't make it in time. But this person had good intentions. He received the invitation and nodded. "I will remember it." "Thank you, Stewardly." Stewardly smiled and bid his farewells. Chinyu flipped his hand and put away the jade slip. At this time, a group of cultivators walked out from the entrance. They were the white-browed old man and the others who had just entered. At this time, he squeezed out a smile. "Brother Chai, you and I can be considered old friends of many years. I have already inquired about your auction house's stock of condensed incense pills, so why can't you trade them to us? Could it be that my price isn't high enough?" Chinyu had seen the cultivator surnamed Su just now. He was the auction house's steward and was responsible for daily affairs. After a moment of silence, he forced a smile and said, "Brother Ning, why must you make things difficult for me? Can't you guess the reason? Grand Authority Chu's face is something that not only our auction house, but everyone else has to respect. If Brother Ning really wants to save your niece, then convince your family to take out that treasure. Otherwise, that's all I have to say. I ask Brother Ning to forgive me." He cupped his hands together and left. Ning Yuntao's complexion paled. It really was Chu Taidu's doing in secret. But his eyes immediately lit up with sorrow. The treasure at home was simply too precious. Even if the old master spoke, there would still be a lot of resistance. Not to mention, with Big Brother in his current state, the possibility of taking it was not high. Taking a deep breath, he suppressed the pain in his heart and said in a deep voice, "Let's go." The several cultivators of the Ning family followed behind, their faces filled with grief and indignation. Their Ning family could be considered extraordinary, but now they were being manipulated by this enemy, and there was nothing they could do. Ning Yuntao immediately squeezed out a smile. "Lin Ling, it's too cold outside. Close the window." Behind the window was a pale, bloodless face. Her brows were slightly furrowed, as if she was enduring pain. "Uncle, don't run around for me anymore. Let's go home." "Lingling," Ning Yuntao shouted in a low voice. He immediately softened his tone. "There will be a way. There will definitely be a way. Don't worry. Uncle will not lie to you." Ning Liang hesitated for a moment and then nodded. "Be a good girl and close the window. Your body cannot withstand the cold." Ning Yuntao clenched his fists, blue veins sticking out. As the dark-colored glass rose up, Ning Liang suddenly felt something. She looked up at the entrance of the auction house and saw a black-robed figure standing on the steps. In the wind and snow, his entire figure was blurry, making it hard to see clearly. Just what was this person doing? Ning Liang subconsciously thought this. Then, a wave of pain spread out from within her. She coughed and covered her mouth so that her uncle wouldn't be worried if he found out. She scattered the thoughts she had just now. On the steps, Qin Yu's heart shook. After he awakened his bloodline and cultivated his spirit eyes, his vision had reached an astonishing level. Even in the wind and snow, he could clearly see the woman's face behind the window. Although this woman was incomparably beautiful, it wasn't enough to shake Qin Yu's mind. What truly shocked him was that this woman's appearance was 70 to 80% similar to Ning Liang's. In addition, he had heard the words of the auction house's chief steward Chai just now. The white-browed old man's surname was Ning, and the young woman in the car called him uncle. Naturally, her surname was also Ning. Her surname was Ning, and she looked so similar to Ning Liang. If this was just a coincidence, then it was too much of a coincidence. Qin Yu regained his composure. The group of Ning family cultivators had long since disappeared, but he wasn't worried. Listening to the white-browed old man's words, they wouldn't be leaving Four Seasons City for some time. Since they were staying at the same inn, it would be easy to find them. After hesitating for a moment, Qin Yu didn't visit any other auction houses. Instead, he flew straight towards the inn. As the saying went, love the house and its crow. Towards this group of people that might be related to Ning Liang, Qin Yu could no longer regard them as passers-by. Now that they seemed to have encountered a problem, he couldn't sit idly by. After returning to the inn, he asked a young servant about the guests in the courtyard next door. They hadn't returned yet. It seemed that the Ning family was still trying something else. Qin Yu's eyes flashed. He took out several spirit stones and said, "I'm a bit curious about this group of guests. Can you help me inquire about why they came?" The young servant's eyes brightened. He repeatedly thanked Qin Yu and received the spirit stones. He lowered his voice and said, "Guest, you must have seen the young miss inside. She is truly a fairy-like beauty. If it were anything else, I really wouldn't dare to reveal the privacy of a guest. But this matter has already spread out, so there's no harm in telling you." Before this, a secret disciple of Grand Authority, Chu, came to the inn and publicly announced that he wanted them to exchange a treasure from their family for condensed incense pills. Through the young servant's words, Qin Yu gained a general understanding of the situation. To sum it up, it was simple. The Ning family's young miss was gravely ill and needed condensed incense pills to suppress her illness. This pill was created by Grand Authority Chu. Recently, he wanted a treasure from the Ning family, so he used this matter to threaten them and stop the supply of condensed incense pills. The young servant sighed. That pitiful Ning family's young miss. With such a weak body, she still had to travel a long distance to Four Seasons City to ask for medicine. But it's clear that the two sides weren't able to come to an agreement. I reckon that the Ning family cultivators are looking everywhere for condensed incense pills right now. But they didn't even think about it. Grand Authority, Chu has already spoken, so who would dare to trade with them? After sending the young servant away, Qin Yu ordered a table of food and wine. He chose a seat near the window. Although it was snowing outside, it was actually as warm as spring inside the inn. The sky gradually darkened, and the wind and snow became even greater. With the sound of a door opening, a group of Ning family cultivators arrived in the wind and snow. Perhaps it was because they were in a bad mood, but when they opened the door, they attracted many eyes. As they saw Ning Yuntao at the front, most of their eyes shrank. But there were also many people who looked at the quietly moving speed car with interest. Several young Ning family cultivators revealed angry expressions. Ning Yuntao shouted out loud, "Enough, don't cause trouble. Have a young servant bring the food and wine to our room." Soon, the Ning family group disappeared from the path leading to the living quarters. Several youths in the restaurant revealed disappointed expressions. I heard that the Ning family's young miss is a true beauty. What a pity. She entered the inn and stayed in the speed car. Beautiful women are unfortunate. If the Ning family isn't willing to part with a treasure, I fear it won't be long before even a beautiful woman turns to dust. Humph humph. If Grand Authority Chu asks, who dares to not give him face? The Ning family doesn't know how to appreciate favors. Not only will they send the life of a beautiful woman to ruin, but they will also offend Grand Authority Chu. This is simply unwise. That's enough. The Ning family flourished for a time in the past. If it weren't for that person committing a great taboo and having his cultivation crippled and being expelled from the demonic path, they would have already soared to the skies. I heard that that person has many old friends in the demonic path. Although we don't fear the Ning family, there is no need to provoke unnecessary trouble for ourselves. That's right. Let's drink, let's drink. Qin Yu calmly listened to this. His eyes flashed. He called over the young servant and paid the bill. Then, he stood up and walked toward the back courtyard. Although these youths were frivolous and their words were annoying, their words revealed some information that caused Qin Yu's suspicions to deepen. In the wind and snow, Qin Yu arrived in front of the residence. He hesitated for a moment and then knocked on the door. The door opened from within. The worried attendant's complexion changed and a cold intent flashed in his eyes. "Who are you?" Qin Yu cupped his hands across his chest. "I am Ning Qin, an alchemist. I heard that your family's young miss is seriously ill, so I came to recommend myself." This was the best method he could think of to approach the Ning family. With the Ning family's current mentality, they shouldn't refuse him. As he thought, the attendant's eyes brightened. But then, he immediately turned vigilant. "Are you really an alchemist?" Qin Yu smiled. "I guarantee I am. I wouldn't be so bored as to make fun of you all. Attendant, why haven't you brought the food and wine in yet?" Another young man walked over, scolding him in dissatisfaction. The attendant hurriedly cupped his hands across his chest. "Young master, this person claims to be an alchemist and wants to treat the young Miss Illness." Zhong Yingming frowned. "You fool. Do you think just anyone can treat my cousin's condition? Hurry up and send him away." Qin Yu lightly said, "Hold on. If you don't try, how do you know it won't work?" Hearing this young man's voice, Zhong Yingming revealed a look of disgust. "Shut up. I want to see just where this lecture came from. He actually has evil intentions towards my cousin. Since you won't leave, don't blame me for being impolite." He lifted a hand, and the aura of a fifth-level nascent soul erupted. For him to have such a cultivation at his age wasn't bad at all. But today, Zhong Yingming was blind and had chosen Qin Yu instead. Nascent soul. He could have chased him down many years ago. Bang! With a dull thud, Zhong Yingming was sent flying away in a distressed state, crashing into the courtyard. If it weren't for Qin Yu holding back, at least half of his bones would have been broken. The attendant was frightened. He instinctively wanted to attack Qin, but as his eyes swept over him, he felt as if he had fallen into an icy lake and all the blood drained from his face. "Stop!" With a loud shout, Ning Yuntao's figure appeared. His eyes fell on Qin, and the pressure of a blue sea came crashing down, causing wind and snow to tumble backwards. Qin body relaxed, and his black robes fluttered in the wind. He lightly said, "Fellow Taoist Ning, don't worry. I had no intention of harming them to begin with." His calm voice penetrated through the wind and snow, clearly spreading into everyone's ears. Ning Yuntao's complexion changed. He hesitated for a moment, and his pressure scattered. He said, "Who are you, and why did you attack my Ning family's juniors?" Qinyu's expression was calm. "Let them explain themselves." Zhong Yingming screamed, "Uncle, he dared to attack me. I cannot let him off." He had a fierce expression. "Brat, do you know who I am? You're dead." Chapter 432. Zuido didn't dare to hide anything. He explained what had happened. Ning Yuntao relaxed. It seemed that this person wasn't someone sent by Chu Taidu. He immediately cupped his hands together and said, "Fellow Taoist, it was a junior of my Ning family who was rude. I ask for your forgiveness if he offended you. May I ask for your name?" To be able to ignore his pressure, just this point alone proved that this person wasn't any weaker than him. If he could turn hostility into friendship with this sort of person, that would be for the best. Qin cupped his hands together. "My name is Ning Qin." Ning Yuntao was stunned. Fellow Taoist is also surnamed Ning. Even if it was an alias, this person clearly knew they were from the Ning family, and it was unlikely he would use the surname Ning. There was a high chance this name was real. Although they were strangers, they shared the same surname. Ning Yuntao's eyes warmed a bit more. What a coincidence. Perhaps many years ago, we were from the same family. Qin didn't want to waste time. He went straight to the point. "I came here to diagnose and treat Miss Ning's illness. I wonder if fellow Taoist Ning agrees?" Ning Yuntao hesitated. "Fellow Taoist, do you know that we have provoked some trouble?" He didn't say it clearly, but anyone with some understanding of this matter would know what he meant. This person's thoughts weren't bad. Qin smiled. "Since I came, I naturally don't fear trouble." Ning Yuntao's eyes brightened. He cupped his hands together and said, "If that's the case, then I'll have to trouble fellow Taoist." Zhong Yingming panicked. "Uncle, how could you allow someone to approach my cousin? Who knows what goal he has? Don't speak nonsense." Ning Yuntao angrily shouted. With fellow Taoist Ning's status, how could he do something so improper? "If you dare to disrespect fellow Taoist again, I will surely punish you." He turned and apologized. "This nephew was worried about my niece's illness and offended you in any way. I ask fellow Taoist Ning to forgive me." Qin lightly said, "It's fine. He came here for the Ning family's miss and didn't care about anyone else." This sort of attitude of disregard was naturally revealed, causing Zhong Yingming's complexion to darken even more, and a trace of hatred appeared in his eyes. Qin suddenly turned around. "You don't know who I am, and I don't care who you are. I only came here to treat someone's illness and save someone. I don't want to cause any trouble, so you had best not provoke me. Otherwise, you will regret it. You will regret it deeply, deeply regret it." Although he was willing to investigate because of Ning Ling and waste precious time, this didn't mean that he could truly relax in his heart. Thus, Qin wasn't in a good mood right now. As he vented his anger, that powerful and icy cold will nearly caused one's blood to freeze. Zhong Yingming froze where he was. His face was deathly pale, and he couldn't suppress the panic that gushed out from deep within his eyes. Luckily, after Qin finished speaking, he withdrew his gaze and stepped into the courtyard. "Who?" Zhong Yingming spat out a breath of cold air in the wind and snow. He looked at Qin back, his eyes full of fear. Ning Yuntao's complexion changed. Although he had guessed that Qin was strong, the aura that Qin revealed left him secretly startled. The other party's strength was far greater than he had imagined. If the other party truly intended to harm him, he might not be a match for him. Fortunately, it seemed that the other party really had no ill intentions. But why would he help the Ning family? Lusting after her beauty? Ning Yuntao didn't believe that a person who had reached this level of strength would be blinded by beauty. They had delivered food and wine, but no one was in the mood to enjoy them. The sudden appearance of Ning Qin caused all the Ning family cultivators to feel restless. Although the other party didn't seem to have any ill intentions, what kind of vicious person would write their thoughts on their face? Luckily, Ning Yuntao's existence gave them some confidence. Moreover, this was Four Seasons City, a large southern city of the Zhao Empire. There shouldn't be anyone who would dare to casually cause trouble here. It wasn't hard for Qin Yu to guess what the Ning family members were thinking beneath their vigilant gazes. But he didn't care. He directly said, "Where's Miss Ning? I need to diagnose her." Ning Yuntao said, "Niece's heart meridians were damaged from birth. In addition to her innate ice-cold physique, this has caused her meridians to be blocked and withered. I am well aware of the situation, so there is no need to investigate further. No, if I want to save someone, I naturally need to determine the situation." Qin Yu flatly refused. Ning Yuntao hesitated for a moment. "All right, I will lead fellow Taoists there." He wanted to see just what medicine Ning Qin was selling in his gourd. Moreover, in his heart, he held a trace of anticipation towards this matter. Although he didn't know how good Ning Qin was at treating illnesses, his cultivation alone gave him some confidence. What if it was effective? It was this anticipation that caused Ning Yuntao to back down and agree. This was also why he chose to approach the Ning family cultivators with the identity of an alchemist. The courtyard that the Ning family rented was large enough to accommodate everyone. In the most secluded room, several maids were standing guard outside. As they saw the group arrive, they quickly bowed towards Ning Yuntao. "How is the miss?" Reporting to second old master, "The miss is tired today. She drank some fire ginseng soup and just fell asleep." As she spoke, she revealed an awkward expression. Ning Yuntao revealed a pained expression. "Go in and wake up the miss. Tell her that I have invited an alchemist to treat her." "Yes, second old master." A maid pushed open the door and walked in. Ning Yuntao turned, a bit apologetic. "I'm sorry, but I must ask fellow Taoist Ning to wait a moment." Qin Yu nodded. "It's fine." Soon, the maid pushed open the door and walked out. She bowed and said, "The miss has woken up, but she doesn't seem to be in good spirits. Second old master, it would be best if you didn't delay her for too long." As she spoke, there was a trace of suspicion in her eyes as she looked at Qin Yu. The miss's illness was so serious, and even if there weren't 100 alchemists she had found over the years, every single one of them had said that they were helpless against an innate problem. Could this person do it? From his voice, he seemed very young. Ning Yuntao gestured with his hand. "Fellow Taoist, please." Qin Yu stepped into the room first. The fragrance of a young girl wafted towards him. The room wasn't too bright, causing the girl leaning against the bed to appear even more delicate. Her eyes were dim, revealing a deep weariness. Her lips moved, and she smiled. "Uncle." Then, she looked at Qin Yu. "Grandmaster, I'll have to trouble you." As Qin Yu saw her familiar appearance, he paused for a moment. Then, he gently said, "It's no problem. I will do my best to help rid the miss of her illness." These weren't empty words. Seeing the current Ning family's miss, the softness in Qin Yu's heart that only belonged to Ning Ling was gently touched. He had already decided that even if it was a coincidence that their appearances were similar, he would still do his best to save her. He would only do this to accumulate some good karma for Ning Ling, so that her life in an immortal sect would be a bit smoother. Ning Liang revealed a look of surprise. This alchemist was so young, and his words seemed a bit too confident. In these past years, she had seen many alchemy masters, but in the end, none of them had been able to do anything. In recent years, no one had dared to come and treat her. Was a newborn calf not afraid of tiger? However, this young alchemist seemed a bit familiar. Where had she seen him before? Qin Yu walked in front of the window. The fragrance of a woman lingering in his nose became even richer, like a flower blooming in the night, cold and pure. A maid brought over a chair. Qin Yu sat down and reached out a hand. "Let me examine the miss." Ning Liang hesitated for a moment. Then, She pulled up her sleeves, revealing her white and tender wrist. I'll have to trouble the Grandmaster. Yu smiled. 2 fingers fell down. Don't resist. As he spoke, he carefully probed her with magic power. At this time, within Yu's body, the demonic bloodline that Ning Ling had given him suddenly became lively, emitting a joyful feeling. Then, he felt a familiar aura from the Ning family's mist. As he thought, the bloodline that flowed within her came from the same origin as Ning Ling. In fact, it was highly likely that the 2 of them were half-sisters. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for them to form such a close bloodline connection. Thinking of this, Yu's examination became even more cautious and careful. He was sure that if Ning Ling knew that she had relatives in the land of divinity and demons, she would be extremely happy. Ning Liang blinked in surprise. She didn't know why, but she suddenly felt that this alchemist who was examining her had become much more amiable. This was a strange feeling, as if she were facing someone close to her. For instance, her father or her uncle. But wasn't today the first time they had met? It was unknown what she was thinking, but a faint blush appeared on Ning Liang's pale face. A moment later, Yu lifted a finger. He smiled and said, Miss Ning, if I offended you before, I must apologize. This person was likely Ning Ling's little sister, so Yu believed he should maintain sufficient courtesy. Ning Liang shook her head. Mister is too serious. Ning Yuntao hurriedly asked, Fellow Taoist Ning, how is it? Yu said, Miss Ning's meridians are severely blocked. Moreover, because of the accumulation of cold energy in her body is extremely weak. The situation doesn't look too optimistic. He paused for a moment and said, I heard that Miss Ning was relying on condensed incense pills to suppress her illness. I think you should still have some left. I wonder if I can examine you? Ning Yuntao hesitated for a moment. He flipped his hand and took out a jade bottle. He earnestly said, Fellow Taoist Ning, condensed incense pills are my niece's life-saving treasures. We only have 2 left, so fellow Taoist must not damage them. Yu nodded. He took the jade bottle and opened it. A deep blue pill the size of a knuckle rolled into his palm. Yu lowered his head and sniffed it several times. Then he used his fingernail to scrape off some powder and placed it in his mouth. After several breaths of time, he frowned and a cold intent flashed in his eyes. This grand authority, Chu has gone to great lengths to obtain your Ning family's treasure. Ning Yuntao's complexion changed. Fellow Taoist, what do you mean? Yu sneered. This condensed incense pill can indeed suppress the cold energy in Miss Ning's body. But it has a side effect, and that is that it will accelerate the accumulation of cold energy in her body. May I ask fellow Taoist Ning, as time passes, does Miss Ning take condensed incense pills at an increasing frequency? Does she even need to increase the dosage? Indeed. The explanation that Chu Taidu gave us was that the cold energy in Ning Liang's body was too strong, so it naturally increased. I never thought. Ning Yuntao's complexion paled. He wasn't an idiot. He naturally understood the meaning behind Qin Yu's words. Many years ago, Chu Taidu already had thoughts of obtaining the Ning family's treasure. It was no wonder that he had taken the initiative to deliver the condensed incense pills. It was because he was waiting for the cold energy in Ning Liang's body to grow stronger and stronger until she couldn't leave the condensed incense pills before revealing his true colors. Suddenly, Ning Yuntao's complexion changed. Fellow Taoist Ning, are you saying that even with the condensed incense pills, you still can't save Liang Ling? On the bed, Ning Liang's eyes dimmed. Then, she relaxed a bit. After struggling for so many years, she was already tired. Perhaps death was also a release. Yu nodded. That's right. The condensed incense pills can delay her for a period of time. But at most 3 years, the cold poison in Miss Ning's body will erupt, and there will be no way to alleviate it. You bastard! Ning Yuntao roared. Chu Taidu already knew all of this. From the very start, he never planned on saving Ning Liang. As he thought about how Ning Liang wouldn't be able to live for much longer, his eyes gradually turned red. Ning Liang smiled. Uncle, If it were anyone else that received this cold poison, they would have already died. I should be satisfied that I was able to live until now. She looked up. Thank you, Grandmaster, for unraveling Chu Taidu's plot and preventing the Ning family from suffering any losses. Ning Liang is filled with endless gratitude. But I will soon die, so I fear I won't be able to repay you in this life. Qin Yu coughed. In truth, it isn't impossible to cure Miss Ning's cold poison. Shua. The entire room fell silent. Ning Liang's eyes widened. She looked at this fellow who was talking nonsense. She thought that his method of comforting others wasn't too clever. I have already accepted my death, so why give me any more hope? Don't you know that when hope appears and then shatters, it hurts me greatly? Chapter 433. Four Seasons City. The eastern part of the city was a luxurious area. Most of the prominent figures of the city's great families lived here. At this time, in a luxurious residence that could be ranked in the top 3 of all the luxurious residences in the eastern part of the city, Chu Taidu walked out from his alchemy room. He had a head of silver hair and a loose white robe, making him seem even more transcendent and otherworldly. What is the attitude of the Ning family? Chu Taidu wiped his face with a hot towel and casually handed it to a beautiful maid. Then, he looked at the disciple beside him. Chi Chung respectfully bowed. Reporting to teacher, the Ning family doesn't seem willing to agree. They are still in the city, constantly looking for condensed incense pills. But teacher has spoken, so no one dares to agree. Chu Taidu had a light expression. He wasn't surprised at all. How did the Ning family react? Chi Chung said, according to the latest news from our spies, the Ning family's old master has agreed to exchange treasures for the formula for the condensed incense pill. But most of the Ning family's high-level figures are opposed to it. This matter has yet to be concluded. Chu Taidu furrowed his eyebrows. Continue to investigate. In addition, pass down orders to have them move out and exert pressure on the Chu family. We need to force them to submit as soon as possible. After he inadvertently learned of the Ning family's treasure, his heart began to burn with a fiery heat. The Ning family actually didn't recognize such a precious treasure. If it weren't for the fact that he was worried that his methods would draw the attention of others, Chu Taidu would have spared no cost to seize it. Yes, disciple will do it immediately. Qi Sheng bowed, turned around, and left in a hurry. That brat Ning Liang was Ning Yunhai's daughter. Chu Taidu's pupils shrank. If it weren't for the accident that befell Ning Yunhai in the past, he feared he would have already become a great figure that soared through the highest heavens. He naturally didn't dare to have any thoughts toward her. Now that Ning Yunhai was crippled, his daughter, Ning Liang, had his bloodline flowing through her veins. Because she was valued by the Ning family's old patriarch, Ning Liang was regarded as the future hope of the Ning family. It was because of this that Chu Taidu started with Ning Liang. As long as the Ning family's old master was willing to save her, he would only need to spend some time, and he would eventually achieve his goal. Therefore, Ning Liang was the key to this matter. Of course, Chu Taidu never thought of curing Ning Liang. The demonic path had once placed great importance on the continuation of their bloodline, so he couldn't be careless in the slightest. Only by dying would he be able to eliminate all future troubles. Because of this, he had taken the condensed incense pill and sent it to the Ning family. Now, the cold poison in that girl's body had settled, and it would only be a matter of 2 or 3 years. Ning Yuntao's eyes widened with excitement. Fellow Taoist Ning, do you really have a way to dispel the cold poison? The others also looked pleasantly surprised, but most of them were muttering in their hearts. They were well aware of Ning Liang's situation. In these past years, countless alchemy grandmasters and medical saints had been left helpless. Wanting to cure her was easier said than done. Qin Yu's voice was calm. Although it will be a bit troublesome and the treatment will take some time, there shouldn't be any problems if there aren't any accidents. Everyone could hear the confidence in his calm voice. It wasn't strong, but it was precisely this calmness and indifference that made people trust him even more. Great. That's great. Ning Yuntao's face turned red. Lingling, you're saved. You're saved. I knew you wouldn't die. Ning Liang's thoughts surged. Her weary eyes erupted with an unprecedented light. Although she had already prepared herself to accept the arrival of death, she was still able to do so. However, even an ant wanted to live. How could she not have any expectations for her future? At this moment, it was like a crack had been torn open in the thick layers of black clouds above her head. Warm and bright sunlight sprinkled down, making her feel an unprecedented sense of warmth and relaxation. Tears unknowingly flowed down her cheeks. Ning Liang wiped them away and was helped off the bed by a maid. She knelt to the ground and said, "I'll leave everything to Grandmaster." Qingyu tried to stop him, but was stopped. Ning Yuntao's eyes turned red. "Fellow Taoist Ning, you deserve this bow. This is what Lingling should do. As long as you can cure her, you will be the benefactor of my Ning family. If there is anything you need in the future, I, Ning Yuntao, will not hesitate to go through fire or water for you." Ning Liang's tears tumbled down once more. "Uncle," Qingyu was moved. This sort of sincere affection was something he longed for in his heart, but he would never be able to feel it again. However, after cultivating for so many years, his will had already been tempered to a formidable degree, so he didn't reveal any of it. "All right, if you really want to thank me, then wait until you've recovered. Right now, Miss Ning's body is still weak, so it's best if you don't have too many emotional fluctuations." After a brief pause, Qingyu passed over the condensed incense pill in his hand. Although this has its drawbacks, it can temporarily suppress the cold poison and allow the body to catch its breath. "Miss Ning, eat it and rest for several days. Once your body recovers, it will be easier to treat her." Ning Liang obediently received it. But as she thought about how Qingyu had been holding this pill the entire time, she couldn't help but blush a bit when she ate it. "All right, let's go. Let Miss Ning rest." Qingyu turned and left. Ning Yuntao ordered several maids to take care of the miss and then hurried after. Along the way, he wanted to say something but hesitated. Qingyu didn't have any thoughts of speaking. Instead, he focused on thinking of a treatment method. As they returned to the main hall, he directly said, "Fellow Taoist Ning, Miss Ning's body is weak right now, and it will be difficult for her to withstand the killing effects of the medicinal efficacy to dispel the cold poison within her body. So, I will need to refine some pills to help Miss Ning restore some of her origin energy. The next step will be to dispel the cold poison." He flipped his hand and took out a jade slip. With a thought, he marked information on it. The things inside are the materials needed to refine a cold poison dispelling pill. Immediately start gathering them. I will come back in 3 days. After speaking, Qingyu didn't stay any longer. He turned and left. The cold poison within Ning Liang's body was extremely troublesome. He needed to use a pill called the Blazing Sun Integration Pill in combination with several other supporting pills in order to slowly dispel it. Refining pills wasn't difficult for Qingyu, but in order to help Ning Liang dispel the cold poison, he needed to take pills every day for a month and then personally stimulate the medicinal efficacy. Only then would he be able to ensure that nothing went wrong. There wasn't much time left for Qingyu to gather 36 different soul treasures to begin with. Now that several days had passed, saving Ning Liang would take at least another month. In other words, even if everything went smoothly, Qingyu would only have 2 months left to gather them. To gather all 36 rare and precious soul treasures in this amount of time was nearly zero. Qingyu sighed inwardly. He was a bit unwilling, but he had no other choice. He had to save Ning Liang. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. The training chamber opened, and Qingyu stepped out. He stretched his waist. His bones crackled, and he revealed a weary look. For these past 3 days, he had been refining pills. Ning Liang's physique was extremely weak, and she wouldn't be able to withstand the powerful medicinal efficacy. Even taking supplements could destroy the fragile balance within her body and cause the cold poison to erupt ahead of time. Thus, the choice of pills was extremely important. Qingyu rummaged through Grandmaster Yao's memories and finally found a pill called the Minor Marrow Nourishing Pill. This pill wouldn't directly improve a cultivator's physique. After taking it, The medicinal efficacy would sink into the body and strengthen the activity of the marrow, allowing the cultivator's body to naturally recover. However, this sort of recovery speed would be relatively slow. The estimated time needed to treat her would be longer than he had expected. Qin Yu sighed. He no longer thought about it. He crossed the courtyard path and flicked his sleeves, opening the courtyard doors. "Greetings, Grandmaster Ning." The attendant respectfully bowed, his eyes filled with gratitude and anticipation. Qin Yu's eyes flashed. It seemed that this was one of Ning Liang's admirers. A fair and graceful woman was a gentleman's desire. This was normal, so there wasn't much to say. "Let's go." Qin Yu nodded to the attendant and walked forwards. The attendant quickly sent out a message as he hurried after. The Ning family's courtyard was already open. Several juniors of the Ning family respectfully welcomed Qin Yu in. Ning Yuntao isn't here?" Qin Yu frowned. The attendant hurriedly explained, reporting to Grandmaster, "The second old master left in a hurry this morning. He said he was looking for a precious material. This junior has already informed him of your arrival, and the second old master will soon return." Qin Yu nodded. He flipped his hand and took out 2 jade bottles. "There are 10 pills in each bottle. Give them to your family's miss. Every day, she will take one in the morning and one at night. After using it, she will feel drowsy, but this is a normal phenomenon. Don't disturb her and let her rest." The minor marrow nourishing pill seemed ordinary, but it was a genuine 7th-grade pill. Even though Qin Yu had the little blue lamp and the 9th province furnace in his hands, the refining process was still extremely difficult. Luckily, the Black Demon sect had purchased a massive amount of precious spirit plants and was able to gather enough materials for the pill, otherwise it would have taken much longer. The other 10 weren't ordinary pills either. They were 6th-grade water mist spirit pills. These pills had incomparably gentle attributes and were most suitable for those with weak bodies. Moreover, the medicinal efficacy complemented the minor marrow nourishing pill, so the effects were even better when used together. The pretty maid received the pills with both hands. She bowed with gratitude. "Thank you, Grandmaster Ning. I thank you on behalf of my family's miss." As she spoke, she was about to kneel. Qin Yu flicked his sleeves and stopped her. He rubbed his temples and said, "If you really want to thank me, then pour me a cup of tea. I'm quite tired right now." "Yes, Grandmaster Ning, please wait a moment." Soon, steaming hot tea and several kinds of snacks were brought into the main hall. Qin Yu lowered his head and took a sip. The fragrance of tea rippled through his tongue, and faint traces of spiritual strength spread out, making him feel refreshed. This was a rare and good tea. At this time, the sound of footsteps came from outside. Ning Yuntao hurried in. Before he even arrived, he cupped his hands together in apology. "I'm really sorry to have made Grandmaster Ning wait for so long." Qin Yu laid down the teacup. "It's no problem. It's just that the materials I need shouldn't be too difficult to purchase." Has fellow Taoist Ning prepared them? Ning Yuntao revealed a solemn expression. "May I ask, what Grandmaster Ning wishes to refine is the long-lost Blazing Sun integration pill?" Qin Yu nodded. "That's right. It wasn't strange for the Ning family to know that he had given them most of the materials." Ning Yuntao hesitated for a moment and said, "I'm not proficient in the Tao of alchemy, but I've heard people mention that the Blazing Sun integration pill is divided into a large pill and a small pill. The 2 pills are almost exactly the same. Only a few of the main ingredients are different. Of these materials, the most important one is the Deva Soul. For these past 2 days, I have run all over Four Seasons City and even asked for help from my clan, but I couldn't find any news of the Deva Soul. The reason I left today is also because of this." Ning Yuntao hesitated. When he first learned of the Blazing Sun integration pill, he had been incomparably excited. But soon, he couldn't bring himself to be happy. This Blazing Sun integration pill's large pill was known to be like a blazing sun above one's head. It could dispel all cold poisons in the world and relieve Ning Liang's illness. But the small pill's effects could only be considered above average. Ning Liang had taken many pills with similar effects, but most of them had been useless. If Ning Qin was relying on the small blazing sun integration pill, then he feared they would have rejoiced in vain. And what left him even more anxious was that the list Qin Yu gave him didn't include the Davis soul. There were several treasures needed to refine a large pill. Qin Yu's eyes flashed. He knew what Ning Yuntao was worried about. He directly said, "Fellow Taoist Ning, don't worry. What I will be refining is a large pill." Ning Yuntao revealed a pleasantly surprised expression, but it soon disappeared. He said with a troubled expression, "My Ning family can provide the other materials, but the Davis soul." He bitterly smiled. The Davis soul was said to be able to instantly create a divine soul cultivator. No matter what influence it was an extremely precious treasure. Unless one had a lucky chance, it was impossible to purchase it with spirit stones. Qin Yu lightly said, "I have already prepared the Davis soul and other materials. Fellow Taoist Ning, please give me the materials you have collected." "What?" Ning Yuntao exclaimed in a low voice. His eyes were wide with shock. After that, he was in a daze. It was only after Qin Yu left that he managed to regain his composure. His eyes moved. He swept his eyes over everyone in the room and took a deep breath. "Grandmaster Ning said that he has prepared the Davis soul. Is that right?" Zuido gulped. His throat was dry and tight. "That is indeed what Grandmaster Ning said. How could that be possible? This is a Davis soul, a priceless Davis soul." Ning Yuntao whispered to himself, his eyes cloudy and uncertain. Although he didn't believe that someone of Qin Yu's status would swindle materials, he still couldn't believe what was happening. A stranger that he had never met had suddenly come to treat his illness and even offered a treasure as precious as the Davis soul on his own initiative. No matter how he looked at it, it was extremely strange. The maid hesitated for a moment. "Second old master, Grandmaster Ning left some pills for the miss just now and also explained how to take them." Ning Yuntao's eyes brightened. "Where are the pills? Hurry and bring them out." The maid quickly took them out. Ning Yuntao first opened the first pill. As he looked at it, he sucked in a breath of cold air. This was because Qin Yu had said that Ning Liang's body was too weak. She would need to recuperate before she could expel the cold poison. Thus, in these past 2 days, he had been paying attention to some body-nourishing pills. He just happened to see this pill in the jade bottle. Water Mist Spirit Pill. Amongst 6th-grade spirit pills, this was the highest quality, nourishing pill. It was especially suitable for those with extremely weak bodies, and its price was astonishing. But now, there were a total of 10 Water Mist Spirit pills in this jade bottle. Moreover, whether it was their appearance or their fragrance, it was clear that their quality was far better than those he had seen before. Just these 10 superb quality Water Mist Spirit pills were enough to purchase over 10 sets of materials provided by the Ning family. Ning Yuntao's face flushed red. He felt ashamed of his own guess just now. He carefully placed it down and picked up the second jade bottle. After opening it, he discovered that he didn't recognize this pill at all. The pill was round, and the medicinal fragrance was pure and refreshing. Moreover, since Ning Qin had given him such precious Water Mist Spirit pills, the chances of his motives being impure were close to zero. But for some strange reason, Ning Yuntao took out his handphone and took several pictures of the pill. He sent them to several alchemists he knew in Four Seasons City. Soon, Ning Yuntao received a reply. The other party was an alchemist from a large auction house who was responsible for appraising pills. Not only was he skilled in alchemy, but his field of vision was also extremely high. Yesterday, when Ning Yuntao had asked for his contact information, this alchemist had displayed a cold and aloof expression. In the end, he had reluctantly given it to him. But now, this alchemist's words were filled with excitement and excitement. Minor marrow nourishing pill? That's right, it must be the minor marrow nourishing pill. He never thought that there would actually be someone who could refine this 7th-grade spirit pill that was known as the mildest attribute. Fellow Taoist Ning, are you preparing to sell it? You must come to our auction house, and we will give you the fairest price. Moreover, is fellow Taoist Ning convenient right now? I would like to personally visit and observe and appreciate it. Of course, if there is a fee, I am willing to pay it. Soon after, several more messages came in. The contents were similar to the one above. Although some people said that it was impossible to determine the pill's nature just by looking at the picture, with the cloud mist spirit pill before him, Ning Yuntao already believed that this was the minor marrow-nourishing pill. His mind was a mess. Over and over again, all he could think of was the word 7th grade. 7th grade pill, 7th grade pill. It had to be known that in the entire land of divinity and demons, anyone who could refine a 7th grade pill had the qualifications to be called a grandmaster. A so-called grandmaster was someone who had reached the peak of their field. For instance, Grandmaster Chu Taidu. It was because he could refine a 7th grade pill that he had his current illustrious status. With his status as an alchemist, he suppressed the entire Ning family and even caused countless influences to dread him, not daring to trade with the Ning family. Chapter 434. But soon they were puzzled. Honorable Ning was such a character, so why would he help their Ning family? In this world, there is no such thing as love or hate without reason. Ning Qin must have his reasons for doing this. With Honorable Ning's status, besides the treasure in his family, there was nothing in the Ning family that could move him. But from start to finish, Ning Qin hadn't mentioned anything about rewards at all. The chances of him coming here for treasures were extremely small. Ning Yuntao was deep in thought. Suddenly, his eyes lit up as he thought of a possibility. Lingling's beauty was unparalleled. If it wasn't for the fact that she was weak and had little contact with the outside world, her beauty would have long been known by all. He had absolute confidence in his niece's beauty. Honorable Ning's alchemy skills were unfathomable, but listening to his voice and sensing his aura, he shouldn't be too old. If this matter was really as he thought, then that would be wonderful. Thinking of this, Ning Yuntao broke into a run. He couldn't sit still anymore. He had to confirm it with his niece immediately. Ning Liang leaned against the headboard. She looked at her uncle, who had a dignified expression as he dismissed all the maids. She couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. "Uncle, is there something wrong?" Ning Yuntao waved his hand. "Don't be nervous, Lingling. Uncle just wants to ask you something. But before that, you should take a look at these pills in the jade bottle." Ning Liang's heart relaxed. She pinched the bottle with her pale fingers and opened it. "Water mist spirit pill." She cried out, her face full of surprise. Because of her body, Ning Liang wasn't able to cultivate for long periods of time. She had a great deal of free time to study, and she naturally poured a great deal of effort into alchemy. Although she hadn't truly studied alchemy, she still had an extremely high level of theoretical knowledge. Ning Yuntao took out another jade bottle. "Take a look inside." Ning Ling looked at his lips and saw that he couldn't suppress his smile. Even though she was prepared in her heart, she was still frightened. "Uncle, this is the small marrow-nourishing pill." "Ha ha! My Lingling is indeed knowledgeable." Ning Yuntao laughed. Ning Liang fell silent. "Uncle, although Grandmaster Ning is willing to give it a try, we have no idea whether or not he will succeed. You must have spent a lot of money to buy these two kinds of pills. I'm afraid you'll get into trouble when you get home. Actually, my body is still fine. I could just take ordinary medicinal pills. There's no need to buy such expensive ones." He looked over. "Let me tell you something. The water mist spirit pill and the small marrow-nourishing pill were just delivered by Ning Qin for you to restore your body's origin energy." He looked over. "Let me tell you, the water mist spirit pill and the minor marrow-nourishing pill were just delivered by Ning Qin. He told you to use them to restore your body's origin energy." "Ah!" Ning Liang cried out in alarm, her face blank. Ning Yuntao's heart skipped a beat. "Lingling, do you know why Ning Qin is helping us?" Ning Chun. Ning Yuntao coughed dryly. Then think about it carefully. Have you seen Ning Qin somewhere before?" Ning Liang closed her eyes. Recent memories replayed in her mind. This was her innate ability, retentive memory. As long as she saw something, she would instantly remember it. It was just that flipping through her memories was a great burden on her mind. Thus, Ning Liang's originally pale complexion lost all color. Ning, and her uncle that was. Her, Liang, her. Ling had Yun Ming. Her uncle had tried his best to buy condensed fragrance pills, but to no avail. He had stood beside the speed car and comforted her. Not too far away, a black-robed figure was quietly standing on the steps. That quiet black-robed figure was blurry in the wind and snow. But looking carefully, it was extremely similar to Grandmaster Ning. The more she thought about it, the deeper the two figures overlapped. Finally, they fused into one. After a moment of hesitation, Ning Liang said, "Uncle, I seem to remember where I saw Grandmaster Ning." She immediately spoke of the scene in her memory. Ning Yuntao was overjoyed. Although Ning Liang said she didn't have absolute confidence, he was well aware of his niece's photographic memory. There was basically no way she would be wrong. This explained everything. In the windy and snowy afternoon, the warm light of the speed car sprinkled down on Ning Liang's body, covering her beauty and frailty with a gentle hue. The mysterious youth with a hidden identity stood on the high steps. His eyes passed through the window and fell onto Ning Liang. He was immediately captivated by her beauty. Thus, the youth inquired about the Ning family's current predicament and stepped forward to shield her from the wind and rain. He couldn't help but admit that the scene that Ning Yuntao imagined was beautiful and warm. Moreover, it was actually very reasonable, and there were even some parts that were close to the truth. Thus, Ning Yuntao completely believed it. This wasn't a rash guess. Rather, besides this accident, he couldn't think of any other reason why Ning Qin would do this. He thought about how Ning Liang's illness would soon be cured and how she would obtain the most perfect husband. Even the entire Ning family would benefit from this. Ning Yuntao smiled and told his guest to Ning Liang. The girl who had been pretending to be strong suddenly blushed, and her ears flushed red. She kept telling herself that her uncle's guess was too arbitrary. Moreover, Ning Qin had 7th grade alchemy strength. Such a proud son of heaven could pursue any woman he wanted. So how could he possibly take a liking to a sickly little girl from an ordinary background? But Ning Yuntao's words kept circling in her heart, as if they contained some sort of magic that she couldn't dispel. What if her uncle's guess was correct? What should she do? Ning Liang leaned against the headboard. Her heart raced faster and faster. She subconsciously tightened her hands around the jade bottle containing the pills. Chu Taidu sat cross-legged on a perforated black jade bamboo mat. In front of him was a wooden table for brewing tea. Whether it was the thick and glossy purple clay teapot or the flawless white jade-like teacups, all of it showed that he was a person who knew how to enjoy himself. A piece of black jade bamboo, a purple clay teapot, or even a small teacup. If placed in the outside world, all of these items would be sold for an astronomical price. But in Chu Taidu's hands, they were only one of several commonly used tools for brewing tea. As an alchemy grandmaster, what he had accumulated over the years was not just his connections, but his wealth had reached an unimaginable level. Qi Cheng quietly stepped into the pavilion. Wrapped in a light and refreshing breeze, he stood in a corner of the pavilion. He was well aware of his honorable master's temperament. When he was brewing tea, he especially didn't like being disturbed. Chu Taidu finished sipping a cup of light blue tea and then placed the white teacup down. He lightly said, "What is it?" Qi Cheng took 2 steps forwards and bowed. "Honorable master, this disciple has already investigated. The Ning family is indeed purchasing a massive amount of materials to refine the blazing sun integration pill." Chu Taidu frowned. He reached out a hand. "List." Qi Cheng handed over a jade slip with both hands. Chu Taidu probed it with his divine sense. After several breaths of time, he opened his eyes. "This is a small pill. It basically has no effect on the Ning family's cold poison." He frowned. Although the Ning family didn't have a decent alchemist, they had treated Ning Liang for so many years and used up a great deal of pills. So how could they not know this? Was it because he had no choice but to give up, or was there something else he was hiding? Chu Taidu's eyes flashed. "Have you found out who is helping the Ning family refine pills?" Qi Cheng said, "Reporting to Honorable Master, we have already found out that the person helping the Ning family refine pills is a guest to the Western Mountain Inn. This person doesn't know the Ning family before this, so we haven't figured out what his motives are. Chu Taidu hesitated for a moment. Pay close attention to the movements of the Ning family cultivators. If necessary, send someone to contact this alchemist. This disciple understands. I won't disturb honorable master's peace. This disciple will take his leave. Chi Chung turned and left, a cold light flashing in his eyes. By now, who in Four Seasons City didn't know that his honorable master was intentionally suppressing the Ning family? To help the Ning family refine pills was the greatest disrespect to his honorable master. Humph! If one dared to disrespect their honorable master, then they had to be prepared to pay the price. In his seclusion chamber, Qin Yu didn't know that his actions had caused a grudge against him. Of course, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. He sat down cross-legged and began to refine the pills in his body. When all his losses were restored to their peak, his eyes flashed open and a sharp light burst out from them. It wasn't beneficial to eat too many condensed fragrance pills, so having Ning Liang eat one was only a stopgap measure. It should be able to suppress the cold poison in her body for around 10 days. Thus, Qin Yu prepared 10 water mist spirit pills and 10 minor marrow nourishing pills for her. She would take one every day in the morning and evening. After 5 days, she would wait another day for the medicinal efficacy to be absorbed. At that time, Ning Liang's body would be in its peak condition and also the best time to dispel the cold poison. Thus, Qin Yu only had 6 days at most to refine the pill. The Blazing Sun Integration Pill. The small pill was a 5th grade pill, and the large pill was a 6th grade pill. But because of the existence of the Deva soul, this sort of 6th grade pill was much more difficult to refine than 7th grade pills. Qin Yu only had a single Deva soul in his hands. Even with the little blue lamp, he had to be extremely cautious. Otherwise, if the refinement failed, it would be troublesome. Taking a deep breath, Qin Yu flicked his sleeves. A pill furnace covered with cracks and missing a piece of its mouth appeared. This was the 9th province furnace. 9th province, the pill I am refining this time, is for the sake of saving someone. Don't be too greedy. As compensation, I will give you some pills first. He took out several jade bottles and tossed them out. The 9th province furnace opened on its own and a bright light swept out, pulling the jade bottles inside. After a burst of chewing sounds, the mouth of the furnace opened and closed again, giving a clang as a response. Success. Qin Yu smiled. This was a necessary step. Otherwise, if the Blazing Sun Integration Pill was refined and it was eaten up by the 9th province furnace, that would be a great joke. Let's begin. In the blink of an eye, 5 days passed. In the end, Ning Liang's complexion was much better than before. The water mist spirit pill, combined with the minor marrow nourishing pill, displayed an astonishing restorative effect. Her complexion was ruddy and her eyes were bright and clear. Even her body was a bit more plump than before, of course. It was all in the right places. Hee Miss is so beautiful. We are women, and we can't help but be moved when we see her. If it were any other smelly man, their eyes would fall out of their sockets. Humph! That's because our Miss's body is weak. Otherwise, those 3 beauties like Zhang, Ma, and Wei would all be far worse than our Miss. Ning Liang sat in front of the window, her hands propping up her chin. She helplessly listened to the whispers of several maids behind her. These were all people who had followed her since she was a child. In addition to her gentle temperament, she wasn't afraid at all. Chapter 435. The 3 maids stuck out their tongues. One of them said, Miss woke up this morning and has been sitting in front of the window. Is she waiting for someone? Another maid chuckled. Did you forget? Today is the 7th day. Grandmaster Ning finished eating the pills he left behind yesterday, so he should be arriving soon. Ah, are you saying that the Miss is waiting for Grandmaster Ning? Ning Liang's face flushed red. If you speak any more nonsense, see if I don't tear off your mouths. Miss, don't. As they were laughing, a surprised voice echoed out from the front courtyard. Grandmaster Ning has arrived. Ning Liang's heartbeat quickened. As she thought about how long it would take for him to speak with her uncle, she calmed down a little. She couldn't help But look at the beautiful woman in the mirror. She subconsciously wondered if Ning Qin would find her beautiful as well. The sound of voices echoed out, followed by the sound of footsteps. A black-robed figure appeared in her line of sight. As if sensing her gaze, the black-robed figure paused and looked up. Their gazes met in the air. Qin Yu nodded slightly. Ning Liang nodded in return, her heartbeat quickening once more. The maids had already opened the door. Qin Yu and Ning Yuntao entered, and the others remained outside. "All right, you can all leave," Ning Yuntao ordered. The three maids respectfully bowed and left. Qin Yu swept his eyes around. The closer he was, the more vivid he could see. He couldn't help but be startled by Ning Liang's beauty. After she had restored her origin energy, she had become even more dazzling. But in the next moment, he composed himself. He smiled and said, "Miss Ning has recovered well. In this state, the chances of dispelling the cold poison are much higher." Ning Liang didn't dare to look at him. She lowered her head and bowed. "I've troubled Honorable Ning." As for Qin Yu's strength, only Ning Yuntao and Ning Liang knew about it. The two of them were worried that if this was leaked out, there would be unexpected troubles. And since Ning Qin was so low-key, they didn't dare to speak too much. Qin Yu smiled. "All right, let's not speak anymore. I will first examine Miss Ning's condition." He swept his eyes around. "Miss Ning, you should lie down on the bed. If everything is normal, I will immediately begin dispelling the cold poison." Ning Liang nodded. She took off her shoes and climbed onto the bed. Leaning against the headboard, she took the initiative to reveal her white wrist. Qin Yu placed 2 fingers on her. At the moment of contact, Ning Liang's body tensed. He thought she was nervous and casually said, "Don't worry, nothing will happen." A moment later, Qin Yu opened his eyes, a smile on his face. "Very good. Miss Ning's body has recovered far better than I imagined. She can withstand the process of dispelling the cold poison." Ning Yuntao was overjoyed. "Great." His eyes were filled with excitement. "Lin Ling, you're going to recover soon. If old master knows about this, he'll be very happy." Ning Liang nodded again and again, her voice choked with emotion. "Thank you, Honorable Ning." Qin Yu patted her hand. Subconsciously, as Ning Ling's Tao companion, this girl in front of him should call him brother-in-law. Qin Yu, who regarded her as a junior, didn't realize that his actions were a bit presumptuous. Don't let your mood fluctuate too much. In the process of dispelling the cold poison, there might be some pain. Just endure it, and it'll be fine soon. He turned around. "Fellow Taoist Ning, I will help Miss Ning catalyze the medicinal efficacy. This process cannot be disturbed, so I ask you to wait outside for a moment." Ning Yuntao glanced at the silent Ning Liang and was overjoyed. Good. I will wait outside. Honorable Ning, there is no need to worry. You can slowly treat yourself." As these words fell into Ning Liang's ears, her face flushed even redder. The door opened and closed. There were only the two of them left in the room. Qin Yu had a solemn expression. He said in a low voice, "Miss Ning, no matter how uncomfortable your body is, remember not to resist." These words pulled Ning Liang back to reality. She took a deep breath and said, "Honorable Ning, don't worry. I will only think of myself as dead." Qin Yu revealed a look of appreciation. This girl was truly smart. He turned his hand and took out a wax pill. With a bit of strength, the wax on the surface broke apart, revealing the crimson pill within. The moment this pill appeared, waves of heat billowed outwards. The air in the room suddenly became dry, making one feel as if their face was burning. "Eat it." Ning Liang opened her mouth and swallowed it. She stuffily coughed, and her body shivered, a pained expression on her face. Qin Yu didn't dare to be careless. He grabbed onto her hands and magic power surged out like a billowing river, pushing the medicinal efficacy of the blazing sun integration pill through her meridians. With his magic power acting as a barrier, he could control the amount of medicine according to how much cold poison was deposited in her meridians to prevent the cold poison from erupting. Ning Liang's complexion relaxed a little, but she still bit her lips, not uttering a single sound. Qin Yu relaxed a little. Ning Liang's endurance was much stronger than he had imagined. Like this, he could concentrate on dispelling the cold poison in her body. Ning Yuntao stood guard outside the door. As time passed, his mood began to tumble, and he couldn't help but worry. But as he thought of Qin Yu's orders, no matter how worried he was, he could only endure it and wait outside the door. The three maids, the attendant, and the other Ning family cultivators waited in a distant courtyard. All of them were silent, their faces filled with anticipation and dignified expressions. 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. When the sun began to move to the west, and the earth was covered in a dim yellow glow, there was a creaking sound as the door finally opened, and Qin Yu walked out in a black robe. Grandmaster Ning. Ning Yuntao had a nervous expression. Qin Yu nodded. Everything went smoothly. In at most a month, Miss Ning's cold poison will be completely dispelled. His voice was calm, but it couldn't conceal his weariness. Ning Yuntao was ecstatic. Thank you, Grandmaster. Thank you, Grandmaster. In the distance, the Ning family cultivators that saw his expression all let out excited cheers. Zhong Yingming stood in a corner, his face full of shock. This Ning Qin could actually dispel the cold poison in his cousin's body. But to him, this wasn't good news at all. He squeezed out a smile and clenched his fist beneath his sleeves. A gloomy light flashed in his eyes, but there was also a bit of hesitation. Miss Ning's cold poison has just begun to move. Although a portion of it has been dispelled, her body is still weak, and she has fallen into a deep sleep. Have the maids go in and help her freshen up. I will come back tomorrow. Qin Yu rubbed between his eyebrows and then walked out. Ning Yuntao's face was filled with gratitude. Grandmaster, you must be tired. Hurry and send Grandmaster back. Guard the gate for Grandmaster and do whatever he needs. Qin Yu waved his hand. You stay here and take care of Miss Ning. Yes. Watching Qin Yu leave, Ning Yuntao hurried into the room. There was a pungent smell in the air. Ning Liang had fainted on the bed, a layer of black oil covering her skin. Ignoring the smell, Ning Yuntao stepped forwards to inspect her. After determining that a portion of the cold poison in Ning Liang's body had been reduced, he could no longer suppress the joy in his eyes. Hurry, hurry and help the miss wash up. Remember to be gentle and not disturb her rest. 3 maids entered the room and helped Ning Liang wash up. Ning Yuantao walked out, his face full of smiles. The attendant cupped his hands across his chest. Second Old Master, should we immediately inform the family? Ning Yuantao hesitated for a moment. Not for now. We don't want any complications to crop up. He swept his eyes around. Remember, no one is allowed to reveal anything about the miss's condition, otherwise they will be severely punished. Yes, Second Old Master. Everyone bowed. The hesitation in Zhong Yingming's eyes deepened. He drew back with everyone. Returning to his room, he paced back and forth. His complexion was cloudy and uncertain, but he couldn't come to a decision. With his heart full of worries, Zhong Yingming pushed open the door. He stood beside the pond in the courtyard and looked at the fish swimming in it, allowing the darkness to submerge him. His robes gradually became wet with dew. He let out a long breath and muttered, "Whatever. I can't harm my cousin in the end. As long as she recovers her health, there will be a chance to move her heart in the future." He turned and walked towards his room. There were faint sounds of conversation behind him. His thoughts stirred, and he retreated into the shadows on the side of the road. 2 women walked in from behind him, talking and laughing in low voices. It was clear they were in a good mood. The miss woke up just now, and her condition is much better than before. That Grandmaster Ning is truly skilled. Of course he is. We've only met a few times, and he hasn't even revealed his true appearance, yet he has already made our miss lose her mind. I also saw it. When I mentioned the distressed appearance of the miss after her treatment and the worried expression on her face, it was clear she was afraid that Grandmaster Ning wouldn't like it. What's wrong with that? It's just treating the illness and detoxifying the toxins. Once the miss recovers, she will definitely be even more beautiful than she is now. Grandmaster Ning will bow down to her skirt. The voices of the 2 gradually faded away. In the shadows, Zhong Yingming clenched his teeth, his body shivering with anger. "You slut! I pursued you for all these years, and I've never once disliked you or looked down on you because of your illness. You disdained my feelings for you, and I thought you were pure and innocent. But in just a few days, you've already hooked up with Ning Qin. Hatred, anger, cruelty, all sorts of negative emotions crazily toward his heart." Zhong Yingming's handsome face twisted. "Ning Liang, it was you who betrayed me. Don't blame me for betraying you." Zhong Yingming roared out in his heart. "Ning Qin, do you really think you are the savior of the world and can change everything? I will let you know what fear and despair are." Zhong Yingming lowered his head and quickly returned to his room. Without hesitation, he took out a jade slip and recorded some information. Then he crushed it to pieces. He let out a deep breath, a cruel and callous light in his eyes. "Ning Liang, you are mine. You can only be mine. No one can take you away. No one can." Almost at the same time, in the eastern district of Four Seasons City, in the courtyard of the Chu family, Qi Sheng awoke from his cultivation. He took out a jade slip and probed it with his divine sense. Then his eyes widened in shock. "Pa!" He crushed the jade slip to pieces and leapt off the bed. Then he pushed open the door and left. Soon, Qi Sheng passed through layers upon layers of reporting and obtained permission to enter. In the main hall, Chu Taidu was dressed in silk undergarments. He was being served tea by a beautiful concubine with an enchanting figure. His eyes were light. "What's the matter? Why are you in such a hurry?" Qi Sheng wanted to speak, but hesitated. Chu Taidu lifted a hand. "You may leave." The concubine turned and left. "You can speak now." Qi Sheng looked up. He said, "Honorable Master, this disciple just obtained news that an alchemist named Ning Qin has refined the Blazing Sun integration pill. Today, he helped the Ning family's misresolve part of the cold poison in her body." "Pa!" Chapter 436. The morning light was a bit hazy as it sprinkled down. A group of young masters who had been playing all night were laughing and laughing as they walked through the streets. Their clothes were bright, and their horses were wild and arrogant. Pedestrians quickly retreated, not daring to provoke them. This caused the laughter of these young masters to become even louder and more unbridled. Qi Sheng smiled. Many years ago, he had also been one of them. That was truly a happy time that he missed. But now, he understood that in order to truly live a happy life, one first had to be strong enough. Secondly, one had to have a powerful backer. Thus, he bid farewell to his previous life and became a disciple of his honorable master. Although his talent wasn't the highest, he was still highly regarded by his honorable master. What he relied on was his ability to complete everything that his honorable master gave him. For instance, today, he looked up at the Western Mountain Inn's grand plaque. Qi Sheng paused to admire it for a moment, and then stepped into the inn. He casually chose a table and called for a servant to order some porridge and side dishes. Qi Sheng slowly chewed and swallowed. When he finished eating the last bun, he patted his stomach and revealed a satisfied smile. At this time, the sun had already risen high in the sky. The bright sunlight sprinkled down, making him feel warm. "I've eaten and drunk my fill. It's time to get to work." Qi Sheng stood up and lazily walked towards the rear courtyard. He hadn't gone through the procedures yet, so according to the rules of the Western Mountain Inn, he wasn't allowed to enter the guest area. But at this time, the several servants guarding the entrance didn't seem to see him at all. They allowed him to slowly walk past. The Western Mountain Inn wasn't the largest, but in terms of garden scenery, it could be considered one of the best in Four Seasons City. Even if it was a world of ice and snow, it was still beautiful and beautiful. He passed through a bamboo forest that was covered in thick snow. He walked past a small lake that emitted heat and never froze all year round. Qi Sheng looked up at the lakeside and saw two independent courtyards standing in a mist. "Who is it?" "Stop!" The attendant shouted out loud, his expression alert. Qi Sheng stopped. He smiled and said, "You are cultivators from the Ning family. Why aren't you guarding your miss? What are you doing here?" The attendant's pupils shrank. "Just who are you?" Qi Sheng's smile widened. My name is Qi Sheng, a disciple of Grand Authority Chu. I have come to pay a visit to Grandmaster Ning Qin. His eyes swept over them. You should all know that with my status, I really don't have any reason to talk nonsense with you. So don't speak anymore, otherwise I'll be unhappy. Even if I kill you, no one will dare to say anything. The Zhudo stiffened. Along with several other Ning family cultivators, fear filled their eyes. Although Qi Chung was still smiling, they felt a bone-chilling cold. If he wanted to kill someone, he would really do it. Within the left chief's sleeves, a light flashed in his palm. He took out a jade slip and crushed it. He clenched his teeth and said, I have been ordered by Grandmaster Ning to stand guard here. No one is allowed to disturb him. Qi Chung interrupted him with his actions. He lifted a hand and pressed forwards. The pressure of a peak divine soul caused the Zhudo to freeze in place, unable to move at all. Creak! The door to the courtyard opened from the inside, and the black-robed figure stepped out. The moment his foot landed, the terrifying pressure that imprisoned Zhudo shattered. Qi Chung stuffily coughed and took several steps back. Anger and alarm flashed in his eyes before he immediately smiled. You must be Grandmaster Ning Qin. I, Qi Chung, have come to pay a visit to Grandmaster on the orders of my honorable master. The Zhudo had escaped death. His face was filled with gratitude. Thank you, Grandmaster, for saving me. Qin Yu lightly said, Let's go. Without even looking at Qi Chung, he led the Ning family members away. This sort of disregard was the greatest form of contempt. Qi Cheng's smile stiffened, turning into indifference. Grandmaster Ning, my family's honorable master Chu Taidu, is known as Grand Authority Chu. I have come here on the orders of my master, so I represent him. Your attitude is far too disrespectful. Qin Yu stopped. Beneath his black robes, his eyes were cold. In my residence, you injure my people. If it weren't for giving Grand Authority Chu face, do you think you could have come out unscathed? Before I change my mind, leave this place. Qi Chung was enraged. But he had always been called a sinister and cunning person by others, so he didn't reveal too much of his anger. Instead, his voice became increasingly cold. Grandmaster Ning Qin, one cannot be too confident in themselves. Leave, or I will send you off. Qin Yu calmly said. Qi Chung took a deep breath. Very well. I will pass on Grandmaster's attitude to Honorable Master. I hope that Grandmaster will have a smooth journey in Four Seasons City from now on. He turned and left, soon vanishing from sight. A cold light flashed in Qin Yu's eyes. To dare threaten him. If it weren't for the fact that he didn't want to cause trouble right now, he would have taught him a lesson. Let's go. Behind him, the Assistant General and the others all revealed looks of worship. Grandmaster Ning Qin was truly impressive. He didn't even give Chu Taidu any face at all. Ning Yuntao hurried over with some people. He had an anxious expression. Grandmaster Ning, are you all right? Qin Yu said, I'm fine. Let's go. We can't delay today's treatment. Ning Yuntao relaxed a little. It seemed that Ning Qin didn't have any intention of retreating. But as he thought about how he had just been treated yesterday, and now Chu Taidu had received the news, his complexion paled. It was clear that there was a traitor amongst the Ning family cultivators. Damn it, Ning Yuntao roared in his heart. When Qin Yu entered Ning Liang's room, he turned and shouted, Gather everyone here. Soon, all the Ning family cultivators appeared in the courtyard. They already knew what had happened. Anger and apprehension intertwined on their faces. Zhong Yingming stood in the crowd, his heart restless. But on the surface, he maintained an enraged expression. Ning Yuntao coldly swept his eyes over the crowd. That's right, I don't know who leaked this matter, but that person is definitely amongst you. From today onwards, without my permission, no one is allowed to take half a step out of your rooms. I guarantee that I will definitely find that traitor. After a brief silence, Ning Yuntao said, Yingming, stay behind and help me deal with some trivial matters. Zhong Yingming's heart calmed down. He respectfully bowed. Yes, uncle. He stepped forwards. After my cousin's treatment every day, she will need maids to look after her. The three of them grew up at home and don't have much contact with the outside world, so they should be trustworthy. How about we leave them behind? Ning Yuntao nodded. That's right. I didn't consider this thoroughly. The three of you stay behind and look after the miss. Everyone else, return to your rooms. He turned and looked at Ning Liang's room. It was quiet inside. It was clear the treatment had already begun. He frowned, a bit of worry in his eyes. Although Ning Qin hadn't changed his mind yet, since Chu Taidu already knew of this, he wouldn't give up. Could Ning Qin continue to persist? Ning Yuntao ordered. Ming, immediately send a message to the family and inform the old master of this matter. Have him send a master of the family here. Since this matter had already been exposed, there was no need to keep it a secret any longer. He hoped that the Ning family would be able to resist Chu Taidu's suppression this time. At this time, there's a loud explosion coming from the front of the residence. Ning Yuntao's complexion changed. What happened? Bang, bang. Loud sound waves continued to spread out. Two cultivators fled in distress as the four people behind them chased after them. Although there were array formations supporting the courtyard, most of them were used for warning and isolation purposes. They didn't have much defensive ability. As the several people fought, shockwaves of strength swept out, causing the ground to crack and buildings to collapse. It was as if everything had been flattened all the way here. Ning Yuntao stepped forwards, blocking the path of the two fleeing cultivators. Draw back. He lifted a hand, and the aura of the blue sea realm erupted. The two cultivators revealed fear in their eyes, but that quickly turned to madness. As they screamed, the aura within their bodies suddenly rose. Their bodies were like balloons, and the tiny blood vessels on the surface of their skin began to break apart. Countless cracks appeared on their bodies, making them look strange and fierce. Ning Yuntao's complexion changed. At this time, one of the people suddenly rose in speed, hurtling towards him like a boulder. Bang! There was a heaven-shaking explosion. As the cultivator approached, his entire body exploded. His flesh and blood were crushed into powder by the terrifying strength. Ning Yuntao shouted out loud. A layer of black light appeared on the surface of his body, and in the next moment, he was submerged in the explosive strength. And at this time, the other fleeing cultivator had already rushed to the front of the courtyard. His eyes were blood red as he crazily rushed towards Ning Liang's room. Zhong Yingming's eyes widened, revealing shock and anger. He only wanted to destroy the treatment and make Ning Qin pay a price, but he never thought of killing Ning Liang. He stepped forwards and then drew back. This cultivator clearly had the heart to die. If he rushed forwards, there was a high chance he would be dragged down with him. The phantom of a great furnace suddenly appeared, protecting Ning Liang's room. The crazed cultivator crashed into it. Bang! The furnace phantom trembled and ripples spread out. But no matter how much the explosive strength ravaged it, it wasn't able to penetrate through it all. Ning Yuntao rushed out. His clothes were in tatters, and he looked distressed. As he saw this, he relaxed. Then, anger surged out from the depths of his heart. He angrily turned around and glared at the people chasing him. You bastards, what are you doing? The four cultivators stopped. One of them sneered. The army is capturing a felon and has no intention of implicating you. The logistics department will negotiate compensation with you. You had best maintain your calm and take back the insult you just gave the soldiers. Otherwise, I guarantee you will regret it. As he spoke, he took out a token that shined with an icy cold light beneath the sunlight. Ning Yuntao froze. This was indeed a military token, and the person in front of him was a commander. Although he couldn't be considered a high-ranking official in the army, he still didn't fear the Ning family. The criminal has committed suicide. We have completed the pursuit mission. Let's go. The commander put away the token and led his three subordinates away, soon vanishing from sight. It's rare for the army to chase down a felon, but you actually encountered it. It seems the Ning family has been running into bad luck recently. At some unknown time, Qi Cheng had appeared in the mess. He smiled, but his eyes were icy cold. But I think this should only be a small matter. Perhaps there will be an even more serious accident next time. What does Senior Ning think? He cupped his hands together and turned to leave. The attendant's face was covered in blood, and his eyes were filled with anger. Second Old Master, the one who threatened Grandmaster Ning Qin just now, was him. Ning Yuntao clenched his fists, anger tumbling in his heart. But he didn't dare to attack, otherwise he would provoke a terrible disaster for the Ning family. Today's military pursuit of a felon was clearly the handiwork of Chu Taidu. It was a warning to the Ning family, and also a warning to Grandmaster Ning Qin. Bastard. Despicable. But Ning Yuntao was well aware that this was the result of Chu Taidu worrying about face. If he tore apart all pretense of cordiality and directly attacked, the Ning family simply wouldn't be able to resist. What to do? What to do? Ning Yuntao's thoughts were in chaos. Uncle, the inn manager requests an audience. Zhong Yingming quietly said. Ning Yuntao took a deep breath. Let him in. When the manager's rotund body appeared in his line of sight, he directly said, We will bear all losses. You can rest assured. The manager bowed, a bitter smile on his face. Senior Ning, why must you make things difficult for me? My humble and will return all the expenses you paid for these past few days. I asked Senior to leave with these people. Zhong Yingming was happy, but he still had an angry expression. We pay the money, so what right do you have to drive us away? Do you think we are easy to bully? The manager clenched his teeth. Guests, my Western Mountain Inn has been impolite today. But no matter what happens, you cannot stay here any longer. Please leave as soon as possible. Zhong Yingming wanted to speak, but was stopped by Ning Yuntao. That's enough. Don't blame him. Let's just go to another inn. He swept his eyes over the nearly completely destroyed courtyard. Now, only Ning Liang's room remained intact. It stood alone in the ruins and chaos. Compared to the inn's expulsion, Ning Yuntao was more worried about Ning Qin's attitude. Chu Taidu had already revealed that he didn't hesitate to use any means necessary. Anyone with a bit of sense wouldn't be willing to be enemies with him. Chapter 437. Today's treatment was a bit faster than yesterday's. When Qin Yu pushed open the door and walked out, there was still some time before the sun set. Ning Yuntao hurried forwards. He wanted to say something, but in the end he bitterly smiled. Qin Yu lightly said, I understand. Fellow Taoist Ning, rest assured that since I helped, I will definitely cure Miss Ning. Ning Yuntao was overjoyed. Then, he revealed a look of guilt. This matter will definitely offend Chu Taidu. Grandmaster Ning Yu, Qin Yu smiled. I have my own plans. He swept his eyes around. Since we can't stay here anymore, we should leave as soon as possible and find another place to stay. Soon, everything was packed up. 3 maids carefully carried Ning Liang into the speed car, and they left the Western Mountain Inn. As they left, many eyes gathered on them. Some were filled with pity, but even more were filled with ridicule. After offending Grand Authority Chu, did they still think they could stay in Four Seasons City? Dream on. This was indeed the case. The Ning family went to over a dozen inns, but not a single one was willing to accept them. Ning Yuntao even ordered people to buy a residence, but the seller didn't even show their face before flatly refusing. This happened several times in a row. Ning Yuntao's complexion sank. He was a dignified blue sea cultivator and one of the leaders of the Ning family. When had he ever suffered such humiliation? But the one he was facing was Chu Taidu. The entire Ning family had to bow their heads to him. No matter how angry or unwilling he was, he could only endure it. Chu Taidu wanted to force the Ning family into a corner, but they couldn't leave the city. Otherwise, Chu Taidu would lose all his scruples and their fates could be imagined. At this time, all cultivators in Four Seasons City received a message on their cell phones. Because the city's array formation is being repaired, there will be a curfew starting today. From dawn to 2 hours before sunrise, no one is allowed to stay outside. Otherwise, they will be sentenced to death for destroying the city's array formation. This message was sent out by the garrison. The Ning family cultivators immediately revealed looks of despair. Facing the endless methods of the other side, they simply didn't have the strength to resist. If they didn't leave the city, they would die. But even if they left the city, they feared the result wouldn't change. At this time, in the second speed car, Chinyu slowly opened his eyes. He spat out a mouthful of foul air, restoring the losses he had suffered. The dark window rolled down, and he looked up at the pitch-black curtain of night. His eyes flashed, and he said, "I know a place that Chu Taidu absolutely cannot interfere with." 2 hours later, in the southern region of Four Seasons City, in front of a magnificent building, the Ning family stopped. The large signboard in front of him shone with a seven-colored light in the night. It was dazzling and gave off a majestic pressure. Dao Arena. Ning Yuntao revealed a look of understanding. The Dao Arena was spread throughout the land of divinity and demons, and there were great influences hidden behind them. Chu Taidu, indeed, didn't have the qualifications to influence them. But after a brief flash of joy, it turned into helplessness. The Dao Arena's fees were extremely high, and every cultivation room had a strict limit on the number of people who could use it. The Ning family, including Ning Qin, had a total of 16 people. They would need to open up at least 8 cultivation rooms to live in. The cost would be terrifying, but no matter how much he spent, it was better than being driven into a dead end. Ning Yuntao gritted his teeth, turned around, and said, "Wait here, this old man will go handle the procedures." They hurried to the dojo, but after waiting for a while, Ning Yuntao did not return. Everyone looked uneasy. After another period of time, Ning Yuntao's figure finally appeared in their line of sight. His complexion was incomparably ugly. The Dao Arena could be rented, and there were enough cultivation rooms available. But the Dao Arena did not allow short-term rentals. The minimum rental period was at least a month, and one had to pay in full in advance. There was no credit. This far surpassed Ning Yuntao's expectations. He struggled for a while, but the Dao Arena cultivators simply didn't budge. Chinyu rolled down the window. Ning Yuntao walked over and bitterly smiled as he explained the situation. He clenched his teeth and said, "If there really is no other way, then we will rent 2 cultivation rooms first. Grandmaster and Lingling can stay there first, and then I will bring the others away from Four Seasons City. I think that if Chu Taidu can achieve his goal, he might not be in the mood to bother with us. Let's endure through today first." "Second Old Master, we can leave through the transmission array. I don't believe that Chu Taidu can catch up to us." The attendant's head was wrapped in thick bandages. He hatefully said. Ning Yuntao shook his head. "It's useless. If he tampers with the transmission array, we will die even faster." Everyone fell silent. Chinyu pushed open the door and stepped off. "I'll go." Ning Yuntao bitterly smiled. "It's useless. The Dao Arena's background is unfathomably deep. They won't give face to anyone." Chinyu lightly said, "I never planned on giving them face to begin with. Since I can rent it, I'll just rent it." Ning Yuntao's mouth fell open. As he thought about how Chinyu had casually given out the water Miss-Spirit pill and minor marrow nourishing pill, he couldn't say anything. This person was likely an alchemy grandmaster, so it was naturally easy for him to save up spirit stones. It was normal for him to not care about such expenses. But this was the same as saving all of them. This was a graciousness. Ning Yuntao revealed a look of gratitude. The window of the hearse to the side rolled down, revealing Ning Liang's tired face. "Brother-in-law, how is it?" "It's fine. Grandmaster Ning will come forward to solve it. Lingling, our Ning family owes the Grandmaster a great favor this time. You have to work hard." Ning Yuntao's face was full of encouragement. If Ning Liang and Ning Qin became Dao companions, then they would be one family. If they were one family, then there was no need to speak so politely. He was even more enthusiastic about this marriage. Ning Liang pouted. "Brother-in-law, what nonsense are you talking about? I'm going to get angry." As the window rolled up, she couldn't help but look at Chinyu's back, her cheeks blushing red. All sorts of rumors concerning the young Miss and Grandmaster Ning Qin had already begun to spread out in secret. At this time, everyone in the Ning family revealed a happy smile. Even the attendant felt a bit sour in his heart. But as he thought about how Ning Liang could be saved and how he would have someone to rely on in the future, his heart was filled with blessings and blessings. Zhong Yingming smiled. His eyes drooped, concealing the ruthlessness and anger in them. Ning Liang, you are mine. You can only be mine. No one can think of obtaining you. True residence. Qi Sheng had an admiring smile on his face. Honorable Master is truly thoughtful. He already knew that the Ning family would borrow the Dao Arena to take refuge, so he made arrangements ahead of time so that they had nowhere to run. Chu Taidu had a light expression. With your intelligence, don't tell me you didn't think of this before. Your flattery is a bit too low level. Qi Sheng revealed an ashamed expression. Teacher is right, but even if this disciple thought of this, there was nothing I could do. Looking at the entire four-season city, only teacher can change the Dao Arena's attitude. Chu Taidu revealed a smile. Qi Sheng was highly regarded by him not only because of his ability to handle matters, but also because his words were smooth. That's enough. Don't be happy too early. Although the Dao Arena's arena steward Kong has agreed to help, he can only do so within the rules. It is impossible for him to help with his full strength. Qi Sheng said, Honorable Master, please rest assured that this disciple has already investigated. With Ning Yuntao's financial resources, it is impossible for him to rent 8 training chambers in a single go. Since you are handling things, I can rest assured. I will leave the following arrangements to you. Remember, Ning Liang must live. Chu Taidu's words were calm, but the meaning behind them left one's heart cold. Ning Liang must live. In other words, the life and death of others didn't matter. Qi Sheng smiled. Yes, Honorable Master. An icy cold light flashed in his eyes. Grandmaster Ning Qin, what an imposing aura. He didn't place him in his eyes at all. The reason he didn't lose his composure on the spot was because Qi Sheng was shrewd enough. But that didn't mean he wasn't angry. On the contrary, hidden beneath his shrewdness was a vengeful soul. Those who had offended him over the years had all met with bad and sooner or later. Today, the first one to suffer misfortune was this Grandmaster Ning Qin. Grandmaster Ning Qin, who was judged to be the one to suffer misfortune, was now walking towards the entrance of the Dao Arena. In front of the Dao Arena was a square built from blue stone slabs. The cracks were perfectly aligned, as flat as a mirror. Qin looked down at these blue stones. His thoughts suddenly flew far away as he thought back to his time at the Eastern Mountain sect. At that time, he was responsible for cleaning the Bluestone Road near the medicine garden. The color of those stone slabs was quite similar to the blue stones in front of him. His steps weren't slow or hurried. When Qin Yu arrived at the center of the Dao Arena, without any warning, the Dao Arena that was bathed in darkness suddenly erupted with a brilliant light. The light tore through the darkness. The pure white Dao Arena entered his eyes without warning. It was grand and majestic, as if it were the dwelling of a god. This sudden change startled Qin Yu. He fiercely looked up, a look of vigilance on his face. But besides the bright light, there wasn't any other change. As Qin Yu frowned, the light that tore through the darkness began to gather in the skies. After several breaths of time, a massive tablet phantom formed from countless rays of light appeared. A boundless aura swept out. Like an ancient divine mountain, Shua, a beam of light descended from the tablet phantom, covering Qin Yu's figure. Then, a grand voice sounded out, echoing through the highest heavens. The ancient perishment decree, share your glory with me. At this moment, Four-Seasons City was shaken. Countless cultivators looked up in amazement, shock in their eyes. In the East region, in a luxurious residence, a seclusion chamber suddenly opened. A silver-haired old man stepped out. As he looked at the tablet phantom in the skies, his complexion changed. A cultivator on the ancient perishment decree. Shua, his figure flashed, and he teleported far away. Garrison, in a large tent, a middle-aged general wearing heavy armor suddenly opened his eyes, a sharp light bursting out. He stood up. His armor clinked, and invisible slaughter energy filled the air. He stepped out of the tent and looked towards Four-Seasons City. His pupils shrank. Ancient perishment decree. In the next moment, his figure had vanished from sight. Chu residence. Chu Taidu pushed away the half-naked concubine that was clinging to him. He flicked his sleeves and opened the window. He immediately saw the giant tablet phantom with an unparalleled momentum. The ancient perishment decree, share your glory with me. Billowing voices echoed in all directions. For some unknown reason, Chu Taidu suddenly felt a trace of unease in his heart. The Ning family was right outside the Dao arena. Could this be related to them? But he soon suppressed this thought. Those that had the qualifications to be ranked on the ancient perishment decree were all-peak, peerless existences in the land of divinity and demons. Every one of them was born with extraordinary talent and were taken away by various great influences. How could a mere Ning family possibly be related to them? Taking a deep breath, Chu Taidu waved his hand and tore open space, stepping inside. At the edge of the Dao arena's square, the Ning family cultivators were all deeply shocked. Even Ning Yun Tao's jaw dropped. Although he had already guessed that Ning Qin's background wasn't ordinary and it was likely that he had an honored status, he never imagined that he would be ranked on the ancient perishment decree. It had to be known that this was the Dao arena's ancient perishment decree. It was said that only those that destroyed themselves and emerged from death had the qualifications to be ranked on it. It represented endless hope for the future. In the rumors, only peerless proud sons of heaven and those that stood at the peak of combat had a chance of being ranked on the ancient perishment decree. Ning Qin was a grand alchemist, and yet he was ranked on the ancient perishment decree. If one didn't see it with their own eyes, they wouldn't be able to imagine it. He was simply a legendary, omnipotent genius. After the window rolled down, Ning Liang's beautiful face was revealed. After a portion of the cold poison in her body had been dispelled, her complexion had recovered a great deal, and she was even more beautiful and enchanting. She subconsciously covered her mouth. As she looked at the black-robed figure beneath the beam of light that seemed to be the center of the world, her eyes filled with shock. Honorable Ning, he was actually a cultivator on the ancient perishment decree. Her thoughts tumbled endlessly. Ning Liang couldn't help but be puzzled once more. Why would someone as powerful and dazzling as Honorable Ning Qin help the Ning family? Was it really as her uncle said? Did he fall in love with her? But Ning Liang didn't have the confidence that she could rely on her own beauty to capture this most dazzling star in the skies. Bang! The Dao arena's doors opened wide. A middle-aged cultivator led the way, and a large number of cultivators in the Dao arena's robes walked out. As their eyes fell on Qinyu, they were all surprised. The middle-aged cultivator didn't rashly step forwards. For such a phenomenon to occur meant that this was the first time that this person had entered the Dao arena after being ranked on the ancient perishment decree. At this moment, it was time for him to enjoy the glory of the world. He didn't need to step out and cause trouble. All he needed to do was quietly wait. Kong Mingxiao already knew that the person in front of him was the alchemist that had helped the Ning family. He couldn't help but bitterly smile at his previous actions. Who would have thought that such a minor matter would actually involve such an important existence? Of course, since he already knew that Qin Yu was someone on the ancient perishment decree, Chu Taidu's greeting was meaningless. If he dared to make things difficult for him and neglect a cultivator on the ancient perishment decree, then his position as arena steward would come to an end. Chapter 438. Qin Yu frowned. He bitterly smiled. He never thought that coming to the Dao arena would cause such a change. Looking at the giant tablet phantom, although he didn't know what this so-called ancient perishment decree was, he faintly thought that it might be the karmic effect he had left behind when he left his name in the Dao arena. With such a vast momentum, it would be difficult for others to not know of it. This was completely different from his original intention of secretly collecting 36 soul treasures. Moreover, what Qin Yu worried about the most was that today's events would expose his identity and draw the attention of the immortal sect. It had to be known that he had left behind his true name. Thinking of this, Qin, you didn't have the slightest bit of complacency from enjoying this honor alone. But now that things had come to this, there was no turning back. Whether he wanted to or not, he could only face this sudden situation. Shwa, shwa. In the skies above the Dao Arena's grand square, figures appeared one after another. Everyone's eyes fell on Qinyu. In the dark night, the stone tablet phantom formed from light, and the beams of light that fell down were dazzling to the extreme. A cultivator on the ancient perishment decree. Just this name alone was enough to awe the world. The cultivators that arrived, regardless of whether their auras were strong or weak, all revealed looks of envy and awe. The first great character to appear was a silver-haired old man. He wore wide, purple robes, and his aura was condensed, as if an invisible mountain was pressing down on his mind. The South Peace Trade Association's master. This great character has actually appeared. This is the ancient perishment decree. Even in the entire land of divinity and demons, there are only 10 of them. This is enough for the South Peace Trade Association to value them. The purple robe flickered, and a sharp light flashed in his eyes. He immediately laughed. Fellow Taoist Ning Qin, my name is South Peace Taiwei. I didn't know who you were before, so I ask that you forgive me for my lack of manners. He flipped his palm, and a purple card appeared. This is my South Peace Trade Association's most honored membership card. I hope that fellow Taoist Ning Qin will accept it as my apology. Many people sighed inwardly. Indeed, the older the ginger, the spicier it was. With just a single action, he had pulled their relationship closer. Moreover, with this membership card, they would have a chance to continue associating with Qinyu. Humph! A faint cold snort sounded out. Soon after, a loud clanging sound rang out. Although there was only one sound, it gave off an oppressive feeling as if thousands of soldiers and horses were charging over, causing one's heart to tremble. An armored garrison general appeared. President Anon, I don't even have this kind of membership card. Aren't you being too generous? Anan Taiwa laughed heartily. The implications of being stationed here are too great. I don't dare to shoulder the crime of privately bribing the military. If the Shajiang army isn't worried that the military will hold me accountable, then I will order someone to hand over the membership card with both hands. Sha Changha sneered. Don't use the name of the military department to pressure me. With the top membership card of the Annan Chamber of Commerce, I could save a lot of money when I buy military supplies. The old guys in the military department are more than happy. President Annan, I will remember your words. Don't go back on your words. Annan Taiwei shook his head helplessly. I can give you the membership card, but I will issue an order that only your people are allowed to buy military supplies. Otherwise, I will suffer a great loss. It's a deal. Chachanga grinned. Even so, he still gave off a fierce feeling. His eyes swept out, containing his spiritual will. If an ordinary cultivator were to face this gaze, there would instantly collapse. But at the center of the square, beneath the pillar of light, the figure seemed as if he didn't feel anything at all. He remained calm and tranquil. A look of appreciation appeared in Sha Chang's eyes. He loudly said, "This old Sha is a rough fellow. This is the first time in my life that I have seen someone on the ancient perishment decree, so I was itching to test you. I hope that fellow Taoist Ning Qin doesn't mind. If you feel dissatisfied, then this old Sha will apologize to you." As he spoke, he cupped his hands together. Annan Taiwei smiled. Sha Jiangjun, don't worry. Just what sort of broad-minded fellow Taoist Ning Qin is. He naturally won't care about such minor matters. But your apology is a bit too insincere. Sha Chang'a thought for a moment and then took out a jade box. I heard that fellow Taoist Ning Qin is skilled in alchemy. This is a spirit plant seed that one of my subordinates inadvertently obtained. I heard that the quality is quite good. If this thing fell into the hands of a rough fellow like this old Sha, then it would be a waste. Today, I will give it to fellow Taoist Ning Qin. Qin Yu's eyes flashed. He cupped his hands together and said, "If so, then it would be impolite of me to refuse. I thank President Annan and Sha Jiangjun for their gifts." As Annan Taiwei and Sha Changha handed over their gifts, their smiles became even brighter. Although the two of them seemed to be trying to undermine each other on the surface, the truth was that they had a very good relationship in private. The so-called undermining of each other showed how precious a membership card was and also gave Sha Jiangjun a reason to give a gift. Together, they pulled their relationship closer to Qinyu, killing two birds with one stone. The third great figure appeared. He was a middle-aged man wearing blue robes and a warm smile on his face. He subconsciously bowed. It was clear that he was someone who was used to serving others. The city lord is in seclusion. When he learned that Lord Ningqin had arrived, he ordered this old servant to explain on his behalf. I asked that the city lord be magnanimous enough to forgive my rudeness. Sun San's words were extremely polite. He took out a jade book with both hands. This is a gift from the city lord. I asked that the city lord accept it. A cargo speed car arrived and stopped at the edge of the square. Although it was covered with a thick cloth, one could see that it was filled with gifts. Everyone couldn't help but sigh. This person was truly worthy of being the city lord's right-hand man. Just how long had it been, and yet he had prepared such a large cart of gifts. His efficiency was perfect. Qinyu hesitated for a moment. He cupped his hands together and said, I ask fellow Daoist son to thank the city lord on my behalf. He already understood that since he was inevitably going to be exposed, it didn't matter whether he accepted these gifts or not. Since that was the case, why would he decline them? It was just that the weight of the ancient perishment decree was far more important than he had imagined. Sun San smiled. This old servant will remember this and will certainly convey it. He turned and said, President Anan, Sha Jiangjun, this old servant greets you. Anan Taiwe smiled and cupped his hands together. Fellow Daoist son is too polite. Sha Chang's expression was much more respectful. Greetings, Steward Sunday. It was clear that this Sun San who had come in place of the city lord and called himself an old servant. Although he had an extremely ordinary name, he wasn't ordinary at all. Chu Taidu had already arrived, but at this time, he would rather not be here. Ningqin, he had heard this name many times in the last 2 days, but he never imagined that he would meet in such a situation. Turning and leaving was a choice, but it wasn't a wise one. Those ranked on the ancient perishment decree, as long as they didn't perish midway, their future would be extremely terrifying. Regarding this, history had already provided the best proof. Chu Taidu took a deep breath and smiled. He seemed like a good friend of many years or someone close to him, without the least bit of awkwardness. He took several steps forwards and cupped his hands together. Steward's son, Sha Jiangjun, President Anan, it's been a long time. After greeting them, he continued to say, Fellow Daoist Ningqin, I didn't know of fellow Daoist identity before, and I have offended you. I ask that fellow Daoist not blame me. Tomorrow, I will arrange a banquet and invite fellow Daoist to attend so that I can personally apologize to fellow Daoist. It had to be said that Chu Taidu was indeed an ambitious and ruthless character. He was able to pick up and let go. For someone of his status to do this was extremely rare. This was because he knew in his heart that no matter how unwilling he was, once Qinyu revealed his identity, all of his hard work and plans would be for naught. That's right, the Ning family's treasures did cause his heart to heat up. If he could obtain them, he would have a tremendous harvest. But if he were to thoroughly offend an ancient perishment decree cultivator for this, the gains simply weren't worth the losses. This was because if he didn't retreat today, then even if he could obtain great rewards, it was likely that he would be completely erased in the future. Since he had to retreat, he might as well retreat thoroughly, retreat without leaving any leeway. As for face, Chu Taidu didn't think that lowering his head in front of an ancient perishment decree cultivator was a shameful matter. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if it was shameful, so what? Could face be used to eat, or could it be used to live? In essence, Grand Authority Chu, who had a good appearance, was actually a very practical person. Sun San, Anan Taiwe, and Sha Changhe all had calm expressions. They weren't surprised by Chu Taidu's choice. If he didn't even have this bit of shrewdness, then he wouldn't be worthy of having such a great influence in Four Seasons City. Since Chu Taidu had admitted defeat, Qin Yu had no intention of entangling himself with him. Right now, he only wanted to settle this matter as soon as possible. Otherwise, if the immortal sect were to learn that he was still alive, there would be endless troubles in the future. In order to prevent Ning Ling from learning the truth and having a rift with the immortal sect, Qin Yu was certain that they wouldn't mind using some unusual methods to make him truly disappear. Grand Authority Chu, you speak too seriously. Since this was all a misunderstanding, then let's forget about what happened before. Chu Taidu relaxed a little and his smile widened. I admire fellow Taoist Ning Qin's magnanimity, but in the end, I was in the wrong first, so I cannot not express my gratitude. He flipped his hand and took out a jade box. Inside is a segment of a spirit root that I obtained by chance in my early years. It contains boundless spiritual strength. It must be a rare and precious treasure of the heavens and earth. Unfortunately, this thing has suffered a calamity and its vitality is extremely weak. I have used many methods, but still haven't been able to successfully replant it. Today, I will give it to fellow Taoist Ning Qin. Perhaps with fellow Taoist methods, you might be able to give a new life. If Chu Taidu was willing to give away a segment of a spirit root that couldn't be cultivated, then it must be extraordinary. Qin Yu received the jade box and opened it. Boundless fluctuations of spiritual strength immediately erupted. Anan Taidu's eyes brightened. What a good treasure. If it can be replanted, it will surely be a transcendent treasure. Sun Sen nodded. It is indeed extraordinary. Grand Authority Chu is too kind. Qin Yu's eyes flashed with joy. He quietly closed the jade box and said, Grand Authority Chu's gift is too precious. I don't dare to accept it. Chu Taidu smiled. It is useless for me to keep it. A treasure is destined to meet someone. Perhaps the reason it has been dormant these past years is because it was waiting for fellow Taoist Ning Qin to appear. These words were beautifully said. Qin Yu smiled. He flipped his hand and put away the jade box. If so, then it would be impolite of me to refuse. With the little blue lamp in hand, there was likely no spirit plant in this world that he couldn't cultivate. Thus, that old ghost Chu Taidu's final words weren't wrong. This segment of spirit root was destined to belong to him. Kong Mingxiao had been quietly waiting for this moment. At this time, he finally stepped forwards. He smiled and said, Four Seasons City Branch Master Kong Mingxiao is honored by fellow Taoist Ning Qin's arrival. I wonder if there is anything I can do for fellow Taoist? His attitude was extremely gentle and his face was filled with friendliness. He had to repair his impression of Ning Qin as soon as possible. This was extremely important to him. Qin Yu had already noticed this Dao arena cultivator who had been waiting in silence. But he didn't expect his status to be so honored. The master of a Dao arena might not necessarily have a lower status than the Four Seasons City Lord, and might even be a bit higher. With this person's status, he seemed a bit too polite to him, almost as if there was a trace of respect. Qin Yu didn't know whether or not this was an illusion. He cupped his hands across his chest and said, Greetings, Arena Master Kong. Today, I plan on renting several training rooms in the Dao Arena. I asked Arena Master Kong to make the arrangements for me. Kong Mingxiao discovered that Ning Qin seemed to have too many negative emotions towards him. His smile became even warmer. Fellow Taoist Ning Qin is ranked on the ancient Parishment Decree, so you're the most important guest of the Dao Arena. You have the qualifications to use the Dao Arena's top training room at any time for free. His eyes swept over the Ning family at the edge of the square. He continued to say, In addition, fellow Taoist Ning Qin can bring no more than 10 servants to use together. Qin Yu was startled. He immediately said, If so, then I'll have to trouble Arena Master Kong. It is my duty. Fellow Taoist Ning Qin, there is no need to be so polite. Kong Mingxiao smiled. The top training room has been prepared. Once fellow Taoist Ning Qin has chosen the servants you wish to bring, you may use them. This was clearly an additional preferential treatment. After Ning Yuntao received the notice from the Dao Arena, he looked at the Dao Arena cultivator in front of him and sighed inwardly as if he were a completely different person from before. This was the ancient perishment decree. Even if the Tao arena was powerful and aloof, they still had to give it enough respect. Soon, he finished choosing the people he would bring with him. Ning Liang, the 3 maids, and the 2 Ning family youths. Greetings, Arena Master Kong, Honorable Ning. Ning Yuntao respectfully bowed. Qin Yu said, I will bring 10 people in. The remaining 5 will rent 2 more training rooms. If you don't have enough spirit stones, I can pay. Ning Yuntao hurriedly said, I don't dare to trouble Honorable Ning. Now that the crisis has been resolved, I can bring a group of juniors and wait in Four Seasons City. I will have Ning Liang, the 3 maids, and the 2 Zuido follow you into the Tao arena. As Ning Yuntao thought about how the situation that had troubled the entire Ning family and left them with no way out had been reversed in the blink of an eye. Even someone as powerful as Chu Taidu had directly bowed his head and admitted defeat. Ning Yuntao couldn't help but sigh with emotion. He had a much clearer understanding of just how strong Qin Yu was, and he felt even more grateful towards him. Although the Tao arena had given him 10 people, that was only because of Ning Qin's face. Now that the crisis had been resolved, the Ning family naturally couldn't shamelessly take advantage of him. As for having the Zuido and the 2 juniors go in, that was because of their reputation. Ning Yuntao had considered this thoroughly. Qin Yu nodded. That's also good. Kong Mingxiao smiled. Bring Miss Ning and the others in first. I will personally escort fellow Taoist Ning Qin. The Tao arena sent someone to respectfully bring Ning Liang and the others into the Tao arena. Why would someone ranked on the ancient perishment decree help a mere Ning family? This rumored incomparably beautiful Miss Ning was likely the key. At this time, many cultivators revealed looks of envy. The Ning family was truly lucky. If they could really climb up to Ning Qin, they wouldn't need to worry about their future prosperity. After politely declining Southern Taiyue and Chu Taidu's invitations, they chatted with Sun San and the others. After familiarizing themselves with each other, they bid their farewells one after another. When Chu Taidu left, he had a warm smile on his face. His eyes were filled with affection and reluctance. If one didn't know what had happened, they might have been fooled by his expression. He was an absolute best actor. Of course, after returning to his residence, it was unknown whether or not Grand Authority Chu would be so depressed that he would bleed internally. Kong Mingxiao introduced several important figures of the Tao arena to Qin Yu. Then, he had everyone disperse and return to their own duties. Then, he took the initiative to bring Qin Yu to the training room. Along the way, this person's words were witty and witty. He often spoke witty words that made one feel as if they were bathing in a spring breeze. His communication skills were superb. Qin Yu couldn't help but have a much more favorable impression of this arena steward Kong. At the same time, he decided that he had to figure out just what the ancient perishment decree was as soon as possible. This treatment was a bit too high. Fellow Taoist Ning Qin, the training room is in front of us. Your aura has already left a mark on it. Once you approach, you can open the entrance. Kong Mingxiao hesitated for a moment. He said, although there are only 10 people on the ancient perishment decree, the tests are extremely strict. Throughout history, anyone that manages to climb onto the ranking will attract the attention of everyone. Thus, this ranking isn't some secret. He cupped his hands together and said, if fellow Taoist Ning Qin has any needs, please feel free to tell me. If there isn't anything else, then I will bid my farewells first. Qin Yu cupped his hands together and watched Kong Mingxiao leave. A heavy light flashed in his eyes. With Kong Mingxiao's status, he naturally wouldn't speak nonsense. His words about the ancient perishment decree were clearly a reminder. The ancient perishment decree wasn't a secret. In other words, everyone that paid attention to this matter would be able to guess that Ning Qin was only using an alias. Then, following a series of clues, it was likely they would discover his true identity. As one of the 2 super influences in the land of divinity and demons, the immortal sect would inevitably have many channels of information. Once this matter was learned by them, Qin Yu's complexion became increasingly gloomy. He originally only wanted to help Ning Ling's loved ones, but he never imagined that things would develop to this point. If he were to say that he regretted it a little, then even if he had to do it all over again, he would still make the same choice. If he could watch as Ning Ling's loved ones were humiliated or even killed by others, then he simply wasn't worthy of obtaining Ning Ling's heart. Whatever, he would deal with the situation as it came. He would take things one step at a time. Perhaps this matter would soon subside, and it wouldn't arouse the attention of the immortal sect at all. Unfortunately, Qin Yu didn't know just how great of a stir his appearance today would cause. Any cultivator on the ancient perishment decree was destined to have an illustrious reputation that would cause clouds to stir from all directions. There isn't a single person on the ancient perishment decree named Ning Qin. Unless someone used an alias when they were on the ranking, then the name Ning Qin is fake. Just what sort of glory is it to be ranked on the ancient perishment decree? No one would use an alias to ascend a ranking. I dare to judge that Ning Qin's name is fake. There isn't a Ning family on the ranking, but there is someone surnamed Qin. Several years ago, he suddenly appeared and was ranked 9th on the ranking. When Qin Yu ascended the ranking in the past, he caused a commotion among the great sections. They sent out cultivators to search for him, but in the end they didn't find anything. It is rumored that his origins are mysterious. Only after he ascended the ranking and entered the Dao arena for the first time would such a phenomenon appear. In addition to all the other clues, I seriously suspect that Ning Qin is the 9th ranked Qin Yu. Chapter 439. South End Mountain was a towering mountain that pierced into the skies. Clouds and fog lingered around it, and there were massive palaces. On the tallest mountain peak, several figures sat around a round table in a hall at the summit. Their expressions were solemn and excited. The ancient perishment decrees 9th-ranked Qin Yu. According to our investigations, he doesn't belong to any influence. A middle-aged cultivator on the left had sharp eyes. This is our chance. We absolutely cannot miss it. An old man across from him said, "That's right. My South End Mountain's lineage has withered, and there is a danger that there is no successor. Now, we can only rely on us old fellows to support the facade. But there will come a day when we grow old. If we don't plan ahead, how will we have the face to see the various sect seniors in the future?" He swept his eyes around. If we can receive Qin Yu as our disciple and carefully guide him, he will surely have great achievements in the future. He will be able to support the South End sect. I agree. We must recruit Qin Yu at all costs. Once we succeed, the South End sect will have no worries for the next 10,000 years. In the first seat was an old man who was emaciated. His eyes flashed with a sharp light. "Elder Qian, I'll have to trouble you to personally make a trip. If you compete with others, there is no need to have any scruples." The first middle-aged cultivator to speak stood up. He was slightly fat, and his round face was tense and dignified. But now, he revealed an excited smile, instantly warming his face. "Secmaster, don't worry, I understand." In the boundless mountain fog, one couldn't even see their fingers in front of them. Faint traces of black energy lingered in the air, blocking out all light. The pitch-black hall seemed as if it were refined from a single boulder. There wasn't a single crack in it, and the architectural style was simple and heavy, exuding a terrifying pressure. Those listed on the ancient perishment decree are all peerless proud sons of heaven. If you enter my sect and carefully guide me, you will be able to support the heavens and earth. Although this Qin Yu avoided all invitations, as his cultivation deepens, he will eventually understand that fighting alone in the land of divinity and demons is far too difficult. It is likely to draw all sorts of covetous eyes. Only by accepting an invitation and joining a large influence can he avoid these troubles and obtain sufficient cultivation resources to grow at the fastest speed possible. In the Grand Hall, there was only a single black stone throne. A black-robed figure sat in the center. He was at least 10 feet tall, and his blood-red eyes were particularly striking beneath his black robes. "Go," Bring my name card and tell Chinyu that the gate to dark purgatory is open to him at any time. As long as he becomes this seat's disciple, within 1,000 years, this seat will help him achieve supreme cultivation. The hall's door opened on its own, and a mass of black mist appeared out of thin air, twisting and turning into a black-robed cultivator. As you bid, my master. He retreated out of the hall and soared into the sky. This Chinyu is likely the only person on the ancient perishment decree without any background. Now is the best chance to recruit him. Immediately send someone over and promise him the greatest benefits. Do your best to get him to join our North Sea Palace. Send someone to Four Seasons City and try to win over Chinyu as much as possible. If you can't succeed, try to pull him closer. Beauties, treasures, everything has been prepared. Before Chinyu becomes too strong, I must leave behind a favor. Within a day, countless forces made their moves. Those who believed that they were qualified to accommodate this great bodhisattva naturally thought of ways to recruit him. Even those with small doors and narrow alleys knew that there was no hope of recruiting him. Unwilling to give up, they all sent people over with generous gifts. In short, countless people were hurrying towards Four Seasons City. It was said that there were thieves and bandits that feared neither the heavens nor the earth. Now, they had heard the news and were prepared to take advantage of this opportunity to make a massive profit. Of course, not everyone who obtained this news revealed their intentions to recruit Chinyu. There were also some people who had sinister intentions. Immortal Sect, Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace. Great Elder Purple Moon had an indifferent expression, a cold intent in her eyes. Han Qingping, if you came here for Wenra and Dongyue's matter, then there is no need to speak further. Shen Yuanin's cultivation is rapidly progressing every day. I will not allow her to be distracted at this time. Han Qingping had a calm expression. Great Elder, rest assured that I didn't come here today for this matter. He looked up and said, May I ask, Great Elder, if you know what happened in the Zhao Empire's Four Seasons City? Purple Moon frowned. What is it? It is said that the 9th-ranked person on the ancient perishment decree appeared in Four Seasons City a few days ago. Deep in Han Qingping's eyes, there was a trace of worry. Purple Moon had a dissatisfied expression. So what? You and I have both cultivated to this point, and you still can't see through this? Although the ancient perishment decree is rare, a heaven-gifted genius might not have great achievements. I have no interest in this matter. If Lucid Nether Realm wishes to recruit you, then Elder Han may go. There is no need for you to inform me. Han Qingping's eyes were deep and profound. If it were only someone on the ancient perishment decree, then although I would care about it, I wouldn't disturb Great Elder's peace and quiet. He took a deep breath. But this person's name is Chinyu. Purple Moon subconsciously frowned. After several breaths of silence, she sneered. So what? Does Elder Han believe that they are the same person? He absolutely does not have the qualifications to enter the ancient perishment decree. Moreover, do not forget that Chinyu has already died. In the explosion of yin and yang energies, there is no way he could have survived. Han Qingping lightly said. This person suddenly appeared without the least bit of information about him. He also has no background and has appeared alone in Four Seasons City, although I don't believe that the two of them are the same person. After analyzing all of this, I still feel restless. That is all I have to say. Great Elder, please make your own decision. Farewell. In the Grand Hall, Purple Moon furrowed her eyebrows, her eyes cloudy and uncertain. On the second day, an Immortal Sect team set out in a low-key manner, heading straight for Four Seasons City. Shen Yuanin sat beneath a pavilion atop a mountain peak. As she watched the team fly away, a trace of surprise flashed in her indifferent eyes. Honorable Master's aura, just what had happened that had alarmed her. However, this confusion only lasted for a second. Shen Yuanin's expression became indifferent once more. She was like a beautiful goddess, untainted by the world of mortals. After cultivating the sublime lost emotion code, her emotions became increasingly faint. Towards everyone and everything, She maintained an indifferent and distant attitude. It was just that this pavilion was an exception. Every time she came here, Shun Yuanin's tranquil heart that was like an ancient well in the mountains would begin to fluctuate. She swept her eyes around. The pavilion's furnishings were simple and the surrounding scenery was good. The open field of view brought with it a cool mountain breeze. She frowned, feeling that something was wrong. After a moment of hesitation, Shen Yuanin flipped her hand and took out a bottle of wine. She leaned against the railing and took a sip, her eyes filled with confusion. It seemed that a long, long time ago, there was also a person who liked to sit here and drink wine. Who was he? Why? She couldn't remember at all. As the various people rushed towards Four Seasons City, Qin Yu suppressed the restlessness in his heart and concentrated on helping Ning Liang dispel the cold poison in her body. With the Great Sun integration pill, everything proceeded smoothly. After 10 days, the vast majority of the cold poison in Ning Liang's body had dispersed. But the illness was like spinning silk. If he wanted to completely cure her once and for all, he would need to pay more attention to the treatment process, and the speed would be greatly reduced. During these days, Qin Yu thoroughly understood just what the ancient perishment decree was. He flipped through the long introduction of the decree and found all sorts of praises and exclamations. He wryly smiled inwardly. All along, Qin Yu hadn't been confident in his own talent. He never imagined that he would be ranked on this decree that was said to be the most difficult to enter in the entire land of divinity and demons. It had to be known that in the ancient perishment decree, as long as someone didn't die midway, they would have great achievements. Qin Yu was suddenly enlightened. So he had such fierce knowledge. But as he thought of the influence of the ancient perishment decree, he could only sigh inwardly. He originally thought that the immortal sect wouldn't pay attention to this matter, but now it seemed that his thoughts were laughable. The fact that the immortal sect knew of this was already a foregone conclusion. The key was whether or not this news would arouse the attention of others. Logically speaking, regardless of whether or not the immortal sect valued this matter, his best choice right now was to leave Four Seasons City and avoid the attention of the immortal sect. But leaving suddenly had its drawbacks. First, there was Ning Liang's cold poison. If she gave it to others, they might not be able to completely cleanse her of the cold poison. If the remaining poison didn't disperse and it erupted once more, then even immortals would find it difficult to save her. This was the same as indirectly harming her life. Secondly, if he suddenly disappeared, it would make people even more suspicious. As long as Purple Moon had a brain, she would definitely investigate this matter. Thirdly, it was out of trust in the dojo. To be able to become the land of divinity and demons and be known as a third transcendent influence outside of the immortal and demonic paths, they naturally had the confidence to not be afraid. As long as he was in the dojo, even if his identity was exposed, he might not die. Summing up these 3 points, Qin Yu thought it over and over again and decided to stay. Of course, this was also a matter of a man's face. He couldn't just flee tens of thousands of miles in fear just because the immortal sect might send people. But this was something that existed in his subconscious. It was childish and irrational, so he refused to acknowledge it. Every day, he would help Ning Liang dispel the cold poison. Then, he would spend the rest of his time recovering and perceiving the 5-element mountain. During this time, his progress in the path of metal became increasingly slow. But Qin Yu knew that this was because he was stuck before making a breakthrough. As long as he could break through this stage, his path of metal would enter large success. At that time, his cultivation would reach the peak of divine soul and his strength would inevitably rise. In the end, one could only rely on themselves. This was a truth that Qin Yu had understood a long time ago. Within the Tao arena, Qin Yu dispelled poison every day, restored himself, and cultivated. The Tao arena was like a barrier that completely resisted the raging tides of the outside world. He didn't know that people from all over had gathered in Four Seasons City, and all of their burning gazes were locked onto him. The Tao arena transcended the world, and no one knew of its true background. But No one doubted its strength. But even the powerful Tao arena couldn't completely withstand the increasing pressure from the outside world. This was especially true after the immortal sect and demonic path arrived. This wasn't fear, but respect. Kong Mingxiao announced to the outside that he would notify Ning Qin, who was in seclusion. As for whether or not he wanted to appear, that was up to him. So, on the 16th day, after Qin Yu helped Ning Liang dispel the cold poison, Kong Mingxiao sent a message to visit. Qin Yu's eyes were a bit tired. A sharp light flashed in them. He said, "Arena Steward Kong, please come in and serve me some tea. I will wash up and immediately head over." A moment later, Qin Yu entered the training room's grand living room. This was the Tao Arena's highest-level training room. In truth, it should be called a giant courtyard. The space was large enough to accommodate dozens of people living, and there were all sorts of facilities available. Kong Mingxiao stood up, an apologetic look on his face. "Fellow Taoist Ning Qin has worked hard to dispel poison, so I shouldn't have disturbed you. But this matter involves many people, so I ask that fellow Taoist not take offense." Qin Yu said, "Arena Steward Kong is too polite. May I ask why you have come today?" Kong Mingxiao cupped his hands together. Recently, influences from all over Four Seasons City have gathered here because of fellow Taoist Ning Qin. They may wish to take you in as a disciple, or they may wish to take advantage of this opportunity to form karma with you. He smiled. "I must congratulate fellow Taoist Ning Qin. To be able to cause the world to seethe with excitement with your talent, just what sort of glory is that? For the fastest and error-free novel reading, please visit Chapter 440. Qin Yu's heart skipped a beat. After several breaths of silence, he slowly asked, "Who came?" "South End Sect, Gate of Purgatory, North Sea Palace, Great Thunderclap Pagoda." A long list of names appeared. Looking at the entire land of divinity and demons, these were all famous names. Finally, Kong Mingxiao paused, his voice slowing. "The most important are the immortal sect and demonic path." Sure enough, they came. Even though he had already expected this, Qin Yu's heart still skipped a beat. He didn't reveal anything on his face. He shook his head and sighed. "I never thought such a storm would be stirred up this time." Kong Mingxiao revealed a look of surprise. "Fellow Taoist Ning Qin doesn't seem happy." Qin Yu shook his head. "If I were to say that I am used to living a free life and do not like to be bound, would Arena Steward Kong think that my words are too perfunctory?" Kong Mingxiao thought for a moment. "A little." He smiled. "However, the decision is in fellow Taoist's hands. If you aren't willing, then, as someone on the ancient perishment decree, no one can force you." His words were filled with confidence. "However, I believe that even if fellow Taoist is unwilling to accept the invitation, it would be best for you to explain yourself in person, so as to avoid being too rude. Of course, this is only my suggestion. It's up to you to decide for yourself." Qin Yu let out a long breath. "Since they've come, let's meet them. I'll have to ask Arena Steward Kong to make the arrangements." Beneath the black robes, a sharp light flashed in his eyes. If he could pass this trial, then he could wash away the suspicions of the ancient perishment decree's ninth ranker. He wouldn't need to worry about being targeted by the immortal sect in the future. How about tomorrow's banquet? I will set up a banquet in the Tao Arena's banquet hall and invite guests from all over. Fellow Taoist Ning Qin only needs to arrive on time. All right. Kong Mingxiao stood up and bid his farewells. After taking 2 steps, he turned around. He thought for a moment and said, "Fellow Taoist Ning Qin, since you have accepted my first suggestion, then I will give you a second suggestion. If you really don't wish to accept the invitations of all parties, then it is best if you do not accept the gifts they offer you. If I've offended you in any way, please don't blame me." Qin Yu cupped his hands together. "Arena Steward Kong is thoughtful. I will remember this." She watched as Kong Mingxiao left. Even though she knew that Kong Mingxiao was trying to befriend him, she still had a good impression of him. After accepting the gifts, if he chose a side to join, he would have a strong background. The other parties would only think that his conditions were not good enough and would not say anything. But if you accepted all the gifts and didn't choose anyone in the end, would you be fooling them? To be hated and dissatisfied by so many powerful influences was an extremely dangerous matter. Thus, Kong Mingxiao's reminder was completely out of good intentions. He wanted to prevent Qin Yu from being blinded by the gifts and doing something that he would regret later. According to Qin Yu's understanding, those ranked on the ancient perishment decree could indeed become the most important guests of the Tao arena. But throughout the years, those ranked on the ancient perishment decree had never been connected to the Tao arena. It was as if they were merely the creators of the list and did not care about the people on the list. If that was the case, why would Kong Mingxiao treat him so well? He was a good person. Yes, this possibility existed, but it was infinitely close to zero. Perhaps the ancient perishment decree had other uses that outsiders didn't know about. Qin Yu shook his head, no longer thinking about it. A sharp light flashed in his eyes. If he dared to agree to hold a banquet and respond to invitations from all sides, then he naturally had some confidence he could hide from the immortal sex investigation. Everything depended on tomorrow. The weather became increasingly cold. Snow had already fallen for 5 consecutive days. If it weren't for the garrison troops clearing the snow from time to time, the massive four-season city would have already been submerged by the surging snowflakes. At this time, dark clouds covered the skies. It was only dusk, but the sky had already darkened. The dark vault of heaven was like a dark gray cloth. In the wind and snow, a hunchbacked old man walked through the snow, carrying a bundle of firewood on his back and a hatchet in his hand. His back was deeply bent, as if he couldn't bear the weight of the firewood. He slowly walked through the wind and snow. But this slowness was only a trick of the eyes. At first glance, the old man was far away. At second glance, he was still far away. And at the third glance, he had already entered the city. The several garrison troops that were guarding the city gates had their complexions change at the same time, fear in their eyes. This person, the small leader turned and shouted, "Shut up! About this person today, no one is allowed to say anything. Just pretend you didn't see anything." Old woodchopper Fu was clearly an extremely terrifying existence. Now that powerhouses had gathered in Four Seasons City from all directions, the slightest mistake could provoke a disaster. This sort of character that couldn't be seen through was someone to be avoided as far away as possible. Woodchopper Fu entered Four Seasons City. His footsteps seemed slow as he passed by many pedestrians, but they didn't seem to see him at all. After passing through several bustling streets and turning into a small alley, Woodchopper Fu suddenly turned around. He said in a helpless voice, "The reason I came here today is to choose a mortal body." Does that count as breaking your rules? A dot of light appeared, immediately enlarging into the outline of a human. The voice was ice cold. "If you act recklessly, I will suppress you." Woodchopper Fu curled his lips, a bit of disdain in his eyes. But he clearly didn't want to make things difficult for an icy cold, rigid, and inflexible array formation. Good. I promise I won't stir up any trouble. Don't worry." The human figure didn't respond. It instantly turned into a dot of light and vanished from sight. Woodchopper Fu sighed. "An array formation actually dares to warn me. Ha! People, it's tiring to live." He turned around. Although he didn't quicken his pace, it was clear he had changed his pace. After several steps, he vanished deep into the alley. A moment later, Woodchopper Fu appeared outside the Tao Arena's grand square. He looked up at the dazzling signboard in the dark of night. His pupils shrank, revealing a bit of dread. "Tao Arena," he muttered to himself. He sighed. "I can't provoke him. I can only wait outside. That boy can't always hide here. It's tiring to live." The black weapon in his hand was a hatchet wrapped in tattered cloth. He casually waved it in front of him, and a crack appeared in space. Woodchopper Fu stepped inside. Qin Yu opened his eyes early in the morning. He had just finished a night of cultivation. Countless sparks flashed in his mind. His perception of the path of metal had reached the final juncture. A trace of enlightenment appeared in his heart. Qin Yu knew that he could only rely on himself for the rest of his cultivation. If he could comprehend it, he could reach large success in a single step, but if he didn't, then he might be stuck here for 10 years or even 100 years. Letting out a light breath, Qin Yu left the training chamber and went straight to Ning Ling's residence. Tonight's banquet would begin, and he would have to deal with the investigation from the immortal sect. He had to maintain 120% vigilance and couldn't be the least bit negligent. Thus, after sending off Kong Mingxiao yesterday, Qin Yu had the attendant inform Ning Ling that today's treatment would begin 2 hours early so that he could have some time to recover. "Greetings, Honorable Ning." The 3 maids respectfully bowed, their voices filled with awe. Qin Yu waved his hand. "There's no need to be so polite. Is Miss Ning ready?" A maid said, "The miss is already waiting. Honorable Ning can go in." Nodding, Qin Yu pushed open the door and entered. Ning Ling stood not too far away. She bowed. "Greetings, Honorable Ning." Ninth, on the ancient perishment decree. Every time she thought of this, she felt that the man in front of her was like a drifting cloud in the horizon, unreachable. But Ning Qin had always been gentle toward her. Even after revealing his honored status, this hadn't changed in the slightest, and he'd done his best to treat her. Involuntarily, Ning Ling couldn't help but feel a bit of longing and anticipation in her heart. Qin Yu smiled. "Miss Ning, in another 10 days or so, the cold poison in your body will be completely healed. You might even be able to profit from this disaster and use this cold poison for yourself." He gestured with his hand. "All right, let's begin today's treatment." This was because every time she detoxified the poison, fragrant sweat would be released along with the cold poison, soaking her clothes and making them stick to her body. Thus, during the treatment, Ning Ling continued to lie on the bed, using a blanket to cover her body. She took off her shoes and climbed onto the bed. Qin Yu sat in front of the bed and, as usual, examined her condition. After determining that there was nothing wrong, he took out the Great Sun integration pill. The sun began to set in the west. When it was still hanging in the air, Qin Yu opened his eyes and let out a light breath. "It's done." Ning Ling's body relaxed. Her complexion paled, and she gasped for breath. "I've troubled Honorable Ning." She could feel that as the cold poison in her body decreased, it would become increasingly difficult for Qin Yu to expel it. He would need to expend more energy and focus. Qin Yu said, "Clean up and rest. I will come back tomorrow." Ning Ling suddenly said, "Honorable Ning, I heard that you will be inviting everyone to a banquet today. I wish you luck." Qin Yu smiled and nodded. He pushed open the door and left. He returned to his dwelling and sat down cross-legged to restore his losses. Once his condition was restored to its peak, Qin Yu carefully washed his face and rinsed his mouth. He constantly pondered in his mind, making sure that he didn't make any mistakes. Standing in front of the mirror, Qin Yu's thoughts stirred. His aura instantly converged, but soon began to emit once more. On the surface, his aura didn't seem to have changed. But if one carefully sensed it, they would discover that the inside was completely different. After fusing with Grandmaster Yao's soul, changing his aura wasn't difficult at all for Qin Yu. On the side of the Dao arena, there were already people waiting outside the training room. As soon as Qin Yu appeared, they all bowed and said, "Greetings, Honorable Ning Qin." Even if everyone knew that the name Ning Qin was fake, as long as Qin Yu didn't give it up on his own initiative, no one would pretend to be smart in front of him. "Let's go," Qin Yu lightly said. Several Dao arena cultivators led the way. Each of them had a solemn expression, but there was a trace of confusion in their hearts. Although they knew that the ancient perishment decree was extraordinary, with the status of the arena steward, he could even stand on equal footing with an overlord of a region. Did he really need to be so cautious? Of course, no matter how confused they were, no one dared to speak out of turn. This was because those that couldn't do these two things had already been eliminated. They simply wouldn't have the chance to become Arena Steward Kang's trusted aide. Soon, the banquet hall appeared in sight. From afar, it was brightly lit. Although powerful auras were restrained, when they wove together, they still formed a terrifying might that shot into the heavens. Invisible yet material, all of the wind, snow, and clouds were shaken to pieces. Even though it was snowing heavily outside of Four Seasons City, a bright moon hung high in the skies above the banquet hall. The pure moonlight was like water, gently sprinkling over the earth. Qingyu took a deep breath and calmed the last bit of emotion in his heart. Then, he stepped into the moonlight. Kong Mingqiao's eyes flashed with surprise before he restrained himself. He loudly said, "Everyone, the master has arrived today. Shua." Chapter 441. The banquet hall was arranged in a buffet style. Around a wine tower made of crystal cups, several cultivators had calm expressions. Their eyes were calm and collected, as if they were completely unruffled. Even on this day, where the various powerful factions were gathered, they still emitted an aura known as pride. As cultivators of the immortal sect, there was no place in the land of divinity and demons that they couldn't go. They naturally had the confidence to do so. At this time, several people put down their wine cups and looked towards the entrance. One of them was a young female cultivator. As she saw that she didn't have a high status in the immortal sect, a light flashed in her eyes. At this time, she seemed to sense something. She furrowed her eyebrows and looked towards the opposite side. Her young and inexperienced face actually revealed a bit of dignity in dignity. Across from her was a long table. On the pure white tablecloth, there were all sorts of delicious foods placed on it. They were all placed in precious and exquisite utensils, but now they were in a mess. 4 black-clothed cultivators sat down, occupying the entire table. From start to finish, they didn't greet anyone at all. They simply buried their heads in food. When the immortal sect female cultivator looked up, she saw that the black-clothed youth sitting at the head of the table was brightly smiling at her. He held a golden and crispy leg of lamb in one hand and lifted a glass of wine in the other, greasy hand. Umph! The immortal sect female cultivator's eyes turned cold. She looked away, no longer paying attention to his provocation. Those that dared to recklessly eat and drink in today's setting and didn't fear the immortal sect at all were naturally the demonic path that had fought with them for countless years. They couldn't do anything to each other and could only live in harmony. How interesting! Because he was chewing on the delicious lamb, the black-clothed youth's voice was a bit indistinct. That old woman, Purple Moon, actually personally came. "Is this little fellow Qin, you really so popular? Or is it that Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace has too many Yin and too little Yang? So that old woman is looking for someone fierce to balance things out?" He lifted a hand and drank a mouthful of wine, his eyes full of praise. Good wine, good wine. In terms of enjoyment, even if the demonic path and immortal sect were added together, they still wouldn't be a match for that person from the Tao Arena. Only the heavens know where he got so many strange methods to brew such good wine. The black-clothed young man didn't seem to care about Qin Yu's arrival. The other 3 people beside him didn't pause at all as they continued to stuff themselves with food. Outside the banquet hall, Qin Yu walked in, bathed in the moonlight. His black robes were covered in a layer of silver sand. His figure was tall and slender, like a towering pine tree. From afar, one could feel the pride in his heart. He stepped into the banquet hall and faced all the honored guests. He cupped his hands together and bowed. "I, Qin Yu, have failed to welcome you earlier. I hope that honored guests will not take offense." He was neither servile nor overbearing. The arrogance of a young man shined brilliantly. If it were anyone else, they might have been criticized for not knowing their depths, but Qin Yu's current performance was just right. As someone ranked 9th on the ancient perishment decree, he could overlook all of his peers in the world. It was natural for him to be proud. In the banquet hall, many people revealed looks of praise. It wasn't just because of Qin Yu's current demeanor, but also because he was decisive and straightforward in his actions. Now, everyone knew that Ning Qin was an alias, so if he continued to conceal it, it would be hard to avoid the feeling that he was toying with everyone. He stepped into the banquet hall and directly revealed his identity. Only then could everything proceed smoothly. This little friend Qin, you not only had a heaven-defying cultivation talent, but he also had a natural way of interacting with others. This sort of person was naturally intelligent, so there was no need to beat around the bush. A middle-aged cultivator stepped out from the crowd. His chubby face was filled with a warm smile. Just by looking at him, one would have a good impression of him. Little friend Xinyu, how do you do? I am Qian Duo, the fourth elder of South End Mountain. I have come here on the orders of my sect master to invite little friend to join us. As long as little friend agrees, my sect can directly grant little friend the authority of an elder, and all sorts of cultivation resources can be used by little friend. If little friend can reach the peak Blue Sea realm within 300 years, my sect master is willing to sacrifice his cultivation to use the wisdom imbuement art to help little friend take that critical step and enter a transcendent realm. The banquet hall instantly fell silent. Many cultivators stiffened before revealing looks of shock and annoyance. They all glared at Qian Duo. Everyone came here for Qinyu. If you put out such high conditions, how are we supposed to play around? But South End Mountain had a long and glorious inheritance and was considered an old and formidable influence in the land of divinity and demons. Qian Duo's smile didn't change, turning a blind eye to these murderous glares. He originally didn't plan on making a move too early. The smartest method was to wait for others to speak first. Only then would he be able to demonstrate South End Mountain sincerity. But now, Qian Duo no longer cared about this. He knew that this might provoke hostility from his sect. The immortal sect and demonic path had both arrived at the same time, causing alarm bells to ring in his heart. The demonic path was fine. They had their ancient inheritance rules, and they might not make a move today. But the immortal sect had no such restrictions. To any cultivator in the land of divinity and demons, these two great influences held an irresistible temptation. Thus, Qian Duo didn't dare to wait any longer. He feared that he wouldn't have the chance to put forth these conditions. Although the ancient perishment decree was incomparably transcendent and represented the status of a peerless proud son of heaven, as the most formidable influence in the land of divinity and demons, didn't they think it was too degrading to come here on their own initiative to accept disciples? Bastard! Qinyu was surprised. He didn't think that someone would be so impatient. Qian Duo's eyes were sincere and filled with a faint desire. It was clear that he was sincerely trying to recruit him. Moreover, the conditions he had put forth were astonishing. It had to be known that just the Bodhi blessing was a great stroke of good fortune that couldn't be exchanged for anything. Seeing him remain silent, the complexions of many people in the banquet hall changed. A fair-skinned cultivator in a rippling robe stepped forwards. Little friend Qinyu, the conditions that fellow Taoist Qian has put forth are indeed astonishing. But South End Mountain has withered away for a long time, and it is unknown what will happen in the future. You cannot be blinded by empty promises. Qian Duo was enraged. Yuan Sheng, don't go too far. With such slander, are you trying to provoke a battle with my South End Mountain lineage? Yuan Sheng shook his rippling robe. My North Sea Palace and your South End Mountain have already fought for tens of thousands of years. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Qian Duo, by relying on you bunch of old fellows, your South End Mountain lineage will only be struggling at death's door. Once the end of your lifespan approaches, my North Sea Palace's younger generation powerhouses will gradually rise. What qualifications does South End Mountain have to fight with my North Sea Palace? He sneered, not fearing at all. Little friend Qinyu, my North Sea Palace isn't trying to be overbearing. I only hope that little friend can see the facts clearly and not be deceived by others. I think that fellow Taoist Yuan Shang's words are correct. Some people can boast when they see that their foundation will be destroyed in the future, but I fear that you won't be able to do so. South End Mountain is indeed ruined. This is an indisputable fact. Fellow Taoist Qian, I fear that you have come here today to stir up trouble. Everyone in the banquet hall jeered and ridiculed, belittling South End Mountain. Those that dared to speak up naturally didn't fear retaliation. Moreover, Everyone had joined forces to kick someone while they were down. Although South End Mountain had several old bones and the Sectmaster was a supreme being, he still wouldn't dare to stir up trouble here. Chiandwudwa's complexion paled and his heart was heavy. He was well aware that the words of the masses could distort the truth. He said in a low voice, "Little friend Chinyu, what I have brought is the Sect Master's guarantee. As a calamity immortal realm supreme being, the Sect Master will not go back on his word. Yes, the South End Mountain lineage is indeed declining day by day, but it is because there is no successor that I am sincere in raising little friend Chinyu. Little friend Chinyu, please consider South End Mountain. I am filled with anticipation towards little friend joining us." These words were beautifully spoken. Moreover, they involved a calamity immortal supreme being. The banquet hall fell silent. Even if they felt disdain and discontent in their hearts, they couldn't say anything else. Otherwise, that would be disrespecting a supreme being. This was something that was absolutely not allowed anywhere. The calamity immortal realm stood proudly between the heavens and earth. Wherever they looked, that was their temporary territory. All life had to maintain the respect they deserved. This was a rule that all parties in the land of divinity and demons followed. "May I ask where little friend Chinyu comes from? Who is your master? Why is it that for so many years, even when the ancient perishment decree appeared, there was never a single trace left behind?" Now that someone had the qualifications to speak up and forcefully change the topic, their strength naturally far surpassed South End Mountain. In the immortal sect, a middle-aged cultivator spoke up, his eyes shining. And these questions also lingered in the hearts of all the cultivators present. At this time, all of their eyes revealed an inquiring look. Chinyu's heart skipped a beat. He was silent, as if he were hesitating. Kong Mingxiao smiled. "Fellow Taoist Chinyu, this is fellow Taoist Jean Russian from the Immortal Sect." This was to ease the atmosphere, and also to remind him that even as a hall master of a Tao arena, he still had to maintain a certain amount of fear and respect towards the Immortal Sect. This was because the Immortal Sect did indeed have the terrifying strength to stand proudly in the world and overlook all the changes in the world. Chinyu let out a breath, a bit helpless. "This involves my privacy. Well, there's no harm in saying some things." Following that, Chinyu spoke of a story about a youth who had stumbled upon a lucky chance. He had gone into seclusion and cultivated until he amazed the world with a single feat. The plot of this story was so cliché that it was almost a joke. It was naturally impossible for the group of people in the banquet hall to believe it. But the key point was that Chinyu used the story of entering the infinite realm and entering the nine-realm holy land from the giant tribe. This caused the entire story to suddenly become vivid and realistic. I was inadvertently recognized and obtained the inheritance of the mystic realm, thus obtaining my current achievements. As for why I was only exposed to the eyes of everyone after I entered the ancient perishment decree, that is because the mystic realm has restrictions. I must possess a certain level of strength before I am allowed to leave. His explanation was reasonable. Many cultivators nodded. Although they didn't believe him, most of them believed that what Chinyu said was correct on the whole. Thinking about it, which of those that managed to enter the ancient perishment decree didn't have a heaven-defying stroke of good fortune? If it weren't for this, how could they have stood above countless cultivators of their generation? The four demonic path cultivators continued to eat and drink in large gulps. The black-clothed youth sitting at the head of the table chewed on a piece of barbecued meat as he mumbled, "Words are no proof. You should at least bring out some evidence. After all, the reason we came here is to find a future leader that will carry the banner of our sect, so we naturally have to be cautious." Kong Mingxiao frowned, a trace of unease in his eyes. The Immortal Sect and Demonic Path were both investigating Qin Yu's identity at the same time. Could there be some hidden reason? After a brief pause, he said, "This is fellow Taoist Ho Yuingo of the Demonic Path. Fellow Taoist Ho's avatar technique is endlessly profound. With thousands of avatars wandering the world, his true strength is unfathomably deep." There was a stir in the hall. Many people revealed looks of shock. It was clear they didn't know that this young man eating and drinking was actually the famous shadow demon. Ho Yuan-go laid down the barbecued meat and wiped the grease off his body. He had a helpless expression. Arena Steward Kong, I have never liked trouble. Since ancient times, my demonic path has only accepted disciples through the demon ascension gate. We have never made an exception for anyone. So today, I'm only a guest. Why must you expose my identity? As he moved, the three people at the table all stopped. Their bodies trembled, and they turned into three shadows that fused into the shadow beneath them. Ho Yuan-go burped, a satisfied look on his face. Delicious, really delicious. However, little friend Chinyu, shouldn't you give me a response? You've already explained the problem with the immortal sect, but if you ignore my request, then I will lose face. Moreover, it will give others the impression that little friend Chin Yu looks down on the demonic path. Wouldn't that be bad? As he spoke, he swept his eyes over the several people from the immortal sect and revealed a strange smile. He discovered that these people from the immortal sect didn't seem too interested in recruiting Chinyu. Rather, they wanted to know some information about him. This was interesting. Although he didn't know what the immortal sect was planning, Ho Yuan-go didn't mind interfering. Perhaps there would be a pleasant surprise in the future. Kong Mingxiao frowned. Fellow Taoist Ho, little friend Chinyu obtained a mysterious inheritance. This is his private matter, so he shouldn't probe too deeply into it. Ho Yuan-go smiled. Of course, I admit that Arena Steward Kong is right. But I'm just curious, of course, little friend Chin, you can choose not to speak. His eyes narrowed as he smiled. His expression was incomparably kind, but it also strangely gave off a terrifying feeling, as if he wanted to swallow someone whole. In the banquet hall, everyone was surprised. Many people revealed cautious looks. It was clear they sensed something was wrong. Could there be some unknown karma between this Chinyu, the immortal sect, and the demonic path? Everyone's eyes gathered on him, waiting for his response. Indeed, if he first explained the problem with the immortal sect and then refused the demonic path's request, then it would seem as if he was being treated differently. Chinyu was silent. His aura was a bit cold, but in the end, he took a deep breath and said, "Good. Since Senior Ho insists on this, then I will comply." With a thought, the phantom of a purple moon appeared above Chinyu's head. A faint purple light sprinkled down, as if the stars in the sky were like grains of sand, incomparably beautiful. But at this time, no one cared about the beauty of the purple moon. Everyone was sensing the aura it emitted. It was gentle, restrained, but also boundless and boundless. It was like a sea in the dark of night, calm without any waves. But once a storm rose, it could destroy the heavens and crack the earth. It was truly a great supernatural ability. Moreover, no one present had ever seen such a strange purple moon before. For a time, everyone believed Chinyu's words even more. Ho Yuan-go's eyes flashed. He clapped his hands and laughed. What a wonderful supernatural ability. My horizons have been broadened. I must thank little friend Chinyu for giving me face. Then, he changed the topic. Since ancient times, my demonic path has passed down an inheritance rule that disciples can only be recruited through the demon ascension gate. No other methods are allowed. So, I cannot make a promise to little friend Chinyu today. But there is only a year left until the demonic path's demon ascension gate. If little friend Chinyu is willing, then there is no harm in waiting for a period of time. My demonic path will not disappoint little friend Chinyu. This was solicitation. Many people cursed inwardly. Didn't they say they were going to watch a play? How could they jump down and engage in melee combat? This was simply preposterous. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.